Hi, I'm Karlin Borisenko. In early 2020, I was the knitting Democrat who accidentally went viral on the internet for going to a Trump rally and then left the party. I became the conservative darling, was on all the shows, traveled around the country, and then realized that conservatives were no better than Democrats. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that both political tribes are two sides of the same coin. But it wasn't all bad. On my journey, I became obsessed with understanding the woke ideology and the culture war. I broke the story of the city of Seattle doing segregated training with its employees.
How bad has this stuff become? The city of Seattle has now put out, I'm not kidding you, this is according to Dr. Carolyn Borisenko, who's an organizational psychologist. The city of Seattle asked its white employees to voluntarily spend a day off in a training about their internalized racial superiority.
I broke the story that led to the first ever federal lawsuit against critical race theory in the schools. I broke the Coke Be Less White story, one of the biggest anti-woke stories of all time. It got over 30 million views. Coca-Cola's corporate headquarters even had to change their outgoing voicemail.
Throughout the past few days, you may have seen inaccurate reporting on the content of our recently launched diversity, equity, and inclusion training program.
I exposed the schools in Burlington, Vermont for grooming middle school children live on the internet. They called me an unwoke cult leader for that. And the Vermont Human Rights Commission slandered me publicly as being a hate channel. I even got called a hero in Breitbart for exposing that the Washington Post was writing a hit piece on Christopher Rufo. I have broken story after story after story about what's going on in the public schools, from Cambridge, Massachusetts, to autistic sex education, to the Department of Education in Michigan, literally training teachers all over the state how to groom children. I wrote a book called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. I host a podcast all about fighting back, and I'm downloading all of my knowledge to you on my Substack, karlin.substack.com. The world is a crazy place. We are literally surrounded by cults on all sides. On this show, we're going to do a deep dive into all aspects of the culture war, and I will show you the dark, dystopian underbellies on both sides. Here are the commitments I'll make to you. I will always tell you the truth. I will always bring you receipts. And if you stick with me, I promise you will see the world differently. Welcome to the cult. Please mount that like button for me and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Well, hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I do apologize for being a couple minutes late, but it's been a busy day, and I know you guys will forgive me. And I do apologize for being off yesterday because I went to Boston to have lunch with Joshua, and we chatted a lot, and it went a bit long, okay? And on the topic of Joshua, I have good news and I have bad news. Because as you guys know, today is Tuesday, which means this is typically not my last stream of the day. It's but my first stream of the day, because usually on Tuesdays, we go live again at 9:30 p.m. tonight to have nothing remotely controversial. Well, sadly, Joshua's flight yesterday got delayed and then canceled. And so Joshua didn't even leave Boston yesterday. And he is, I believe, as we speak, on a flight home to Los Angeles, which means, sadly, Joshua will not be available for nothing remotely controversial tonight, which is annoying because Joshua and I had planned to do a whole astrology debate preview. And sadly, we just aren't going to be able to do that tonight because it is what it is. There was a hurricane in Los Angeles. It screwed up a lot of traffic. So Joshua is just not available. But I have good news, guys. I have good news. I'm going to make it up to you. I'm going to not only make it up to you, I think on the stream we're going to do today, which is going to be Nick Fuentes through the eyes of the leftists, which, I mean, come on. Like, anytime we watch Nick Fuentes on the channel, it's a good time. But tomorrow, I have two additional ways in which I'm going to make this up to you. Because I know that you guys all like Joshua way more than you like me. And so tomorrow, we have the Republican clown car debate. and I'm going to be doing marathon debate coverage. And I decided to make this a nitwits episode instead of a cult episode because let's be honest, anytime we're talking about politicians in a debate, that just screams nitwits to me. And so tomorrow we are going to be doing marathon GOP debate coverage. We're going to watch the interview that Tucker Carlson did with Vivek. We're going to watch some MSNBC. We're going to watch some CNN. And then we're going to watch the debate live. And Joshua may pop in to join us for live debate coverage. And I kind of feel like he owes it to us. I tried to convince him to do it yesterday when we were out to lunch. And he was hemming and hawing. He's like, Carlin, I just don't know, my schedule, because you guys know Joshua's very anal about his schedule. He's like, I don't know if I can do it, Carlin, my schedule. And so I said to him, I was like, Joshua, you miss nothing remotely controversial. You owe us. You owe us live debate reaction stream. And so I'm going to try to get Joshua to pop in tomorrow during the actual debate coverage on the stream. But we're going to go all day, guys. It's going to be great. I'm going to get some beers and some ciders, and we're going to get some snacks, and I'm going to have so much knitting. I'm probably going to finish an entire shawl on the stream we're going to do tomorrow. I'm planning on starting it around 5 or 6 o'clock. I've got it scheduled at 5 right now. I might go a little bit later, just depending, because let's be honest, this is going to be a long ass day. All right. It's going to be a long day. And we're all going to get it through it together. This is the first debate of the clown car campaign that we're going to be in for the next, year and a couple of months. So we might as well get into the groove and do it right. And no, I'm not going to watch Trump's pre-recorded interview with Tucker Carlson, because that's some bullshit right there. I'm sorry. I just think that's lame. So we will be doing live debate coverage tomorrow for Nitwits, and hopefully Joshua will join us. But guys, I have one more special treat for you. Are you ready? Are you ready? You guys are going to be so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so happy that this has worked out, because I have just confirmed on Thursday the QAnon Shaman is going to come and join us on Thursday at 5 p.m. You're all welcome. I am so excited about this interview. Yes, Gayla, yes, QAnon Shaman is coming to join us for a live chat, and we're going to get to ask him questions, and it's going to be great. And I have high expectations for you guys. I want nothing less than the best interview and the best audience that the QAnon Shaman has ever had, because God knows we are probably the only people on the internet that actually understand his spiritual beliefs. He has to explain this to everyone else. Conservatives don't understand it, and I know some people here don't understand it too, but many of us here do understand exactly what Jacob is talking about. And I'm so excited that we're going to be welcoming him on the channel live on Thursday. So I know everyone's sad that we're not doing nothing remotely controversial tonight, but did I make it up to you or what? I told you it's going to be great. And yeah, Lisa, you might have to just postpone writers group a little bit, because this is more important. And so I told you guys I would hook you up, and I did. But guys, today we're going to be doing something a little different. Today we are going to be doing a stream. Well, let me just actually show you this. This is better. So as you guys know, I am just slightly partial to stalking Nick Fuentes' Telegram. I have an odd fascination with Nick Fuentes, both because I think he is very smart and deeply terrifying because of how smart he is. And so I do pay attention to what Nick Fuentes says. I do pay attention to what the Groypers are doing, because to be honest, we spend most of our time on this show talking about the woke left and socialism and all that stuff. But Nick Fuentes is the other side, is the other side of the same coin of the woke left. And I think that, I mean, it's just like, so I'm generally pretty entertained by Nick Fuentes. I know a lot of you are here too. And I just want to say, for all the groypers that are inevitably watching right now, waiting the 5 minutes to chat in, to subscribe and talk about how great they think Nick is. Groypers, you're going to get to talk about how great Nick is. Just don't be dicks in my chat. All right. That's it. You can call Nick your hero. You can call Nick the greatest human being that has ever lived. Just don't be dicks in my chat. All right. Because today we're going to be watching something that Nick Fuentes has actually just commented on. We're going to be watching this stream from Inspiring Philosophy, who I've never watched Inspiring Philosophy before, but I'm assuming this is going to be more of like a leftist thing because they titled the stream Exposing American Fascism. And of course, Nick Fuentes looking evil with his evil plans. And the description of this is: fascism has been rising in America in the past few years under a man named Nick Fuentes. We hope to expose his goals for America, and so more people are aware of how dangerous he is. Fuentes preaches a similar message to Adolf Hitler. Now, here's the thing. I am not going to defend Nick Fuentes because overall, I think that Nick could use some therapy. But I also think that sometimes, most often, people on the left who analyze Nick Fuentes get a lot of things wrong. And so I want to make it very clear. I'm not going to be a Nick Fuentes apologist. I'm also not going to excuse the person who made this stream for anything that they get wrong. I'm right down the middle on this one. I don't think Nick Fuentes is good, but I also don't think that the left actually portrays Nick Fuentes as he is. And so I think this is just going to be an interesting exercise to watch this stream to see how this person kind of perceives Nick Fuentes. And I think Nick Fuentes, and we're not going to watch this today, but if we go back to his Telegram group, I'm pretty sure Nick Fuentes just did a stream like responding to this. So we've got this here saying that he did a stream. What did this say? Full Nick Fuentes responding to this guy's smears. So Nick obviously took umbrage with some of the things that this guy said. And I'm going to call it right down the middle, guys. I am not on anyone's team. I just think this is going to be entertaining to watch, and I'm here for the shit show. I hope you're all here for the shit show too. And this is a 3-hour video. And what a perfect day that we don't have nothing remotely controversial tonight, because we could conceivably go all night. Sadly, I only have 2 cans of cider in my little cooler down here, so I don't know exactly how long I'll go, but we'll get the basic mise-en-scène of what this stream is, and we'll talk about it, and we'll talk about what they got right and what they got wrong, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what we're doing for the stream here today, guys. I hope you're here for it. Please mount that like button if you have not mounted that like button already. And I just want to say again, okay, I know the groypers are going to come in, okay? Groypers, I know you're here. And I want to say to the groypers, we may not be on the same team, but as long as you follow the rules of my chat, which are don't be a dick and no whining, then you're welcome to stay and you're welcome to say whatever you want. And I will try to be honest about what I think they got right about Nick and what I think they got wrong. And that's all I'm asking, groypers. Let's just be cordial. No need to be dicks, all right? All right. We got a couple of orders of business before we get into Nick, though. So for the groyper in the chat, go collect your little groyper friends. You can come and form a Nick fan club in the chat. Let them know, yeah, Carlin's streaming about him again, like whatever. Go collect your friends. We got a couple other orders of business that we need to take care of before we get to Nick, though. I promise it won't be that much. So a couple other things, guys. Number one, if you want to support the work I'm doing and keep me in business, one of the best ways you can do that is by heading over to the Unwoke Art merchandise store, which is at unwokeart.com. Let me pop a link in the chat right now. Bing! And there's some awesome stuff you can get in the merch store, to include the limited edition Trump Indictment Victory Tour t-shirt. I've been getting so much good feedback about this t-shirt. I have people coming back to the store after they get the first t-shirt and they're buying another t-shirt and another t-shirt because they love this t-shirt so effing much. And don't buy any of those Chinese knockoffs. Not only is the shirt quality going to be much better, but any of those Chinese knockoffs that you see coming up, they may have a similar looking image on the front, but you know what they don't have? You know what makes this t-shirt so special? Is that it has every single Donald Trump indictment printed on the back, just like a concert t-shirt with the tour dates printed on the back, except we're going on the Trump indictment tour t-shirt. I am actually really excited because Trump is getting his mugshot taken on Thursday. And if you think I'm not making an iconic Trump mugshot t-shirt, you are out of your ever-loving mind, because that's going to be amazing. I cannot wait to see the mugshot in Georgia, and you can get the Trump Indictment Victory Tour t-shirt for a limited time only at the Unwoke Art Store. You can get it in t-shirt, women's cut, tank top, or hoodie, whatever is clever for you. They all have the indictments printed on the back, and I really hope Trump doesn't get any more indictments, because I have run out of room. I'm going to have to reformat the whole list if they get more indictments, but that's the way it goes. And so that's one thing you can get in the store. Another thing you can get in the store is the All Tears Are Tasty line, featuring the timeless, the classic All Tears Are Tasty tumbler, because we don't just drink leftist cheers on this channel. We also drink conservative tears or any other tears that might come across. And we got a beautiful tumbler to do that. Look at that. Look at that skull. So much cooler than the Daily Wire tumbler. It's not even funny. But you can also get the All Tears Are Tasty line on t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, etc., etc., etc. But I'm going to be honest, like, I've been using this tumbler for my water for like a little bit now, and it's actually pretty great, and I'm really, really, really happy with it. We got all sorts of other stuff going on as well if you want to peruse the merch, to include the Be Bourgeois t-shirt. I'm actually wearing the Be Bourgeois t-shirt right now. The colors came out great because you want to embrace your inner capitalist. We've got the Be Different t-shirt with the Cheshire Cat classic design. We got all sorts of great stuff. You guys can head over there and see what strikes your fancy in the Unwoke Art Store. And of course, all your purchases do go to support the work I'm doing, and I do really appreciate it. I also do want to remind everyone, please make sure you are subscribed to my Substack, which is Carlyn, Karlyn, .substack.com. This is my main Substack. I do have other Substacks, but if you're going to subscribe to one and one only, I would definitely recommend this one, because this is where I put all my best content, all my exclusive reporting, stuff like that. And you can subscribe for free, which of course will get you access to a variety of content. But if you do want to support the work I'm doing, get access to premium content, get access to the 2 Zoom calls I do every single week with my supporter community, get access to my supporter Discord for movie night and writers group and stuff like that. You can sign up for $8 a month or $80 a year, and that does help keep me in business. I can't do it without you. And last night, I actually have some really interesting stuff coming out of Project Veritas. As you guys know, we covered this last week. Project Veritas has basically fired all of its employees. And that includes the production team, that includes most of the journalists, that includes the entire communications team, that includes basically everyone. And I have right now, exclusive on the Substack, and it's also on my Twitter as well, I have exclusive screenshots that you aren't going to see anywhere else of what happened when Project Veritas fired the vast majority of their staff, the staff reaction to it. And did you know additional journalists resigned after they fired the staff because they didn't want to stay anymore? Because essentially pretty much everyone thinks that Project Veritas is going to close in like a month or two, which is really, really sad. And I'm really sad about it. But this is what happens when you have leadership at the helm that, you know, maybe shouldn't be at the helm. And so you can find that on my Substack right now. You can also check it out on my Twitter, where I did exclusively release these images last night. There's going to be all sorts of stuff coming out from Project Veritas, guys. And I'm not going to say much more about that right now, but if you do want to see the screenshots for yourself, head over to my Twitter. And of course, make sure while you're there that you check out this recording of the president of the Project Veritas board. Do you guys know? Do you guys remember when all this stuff started coming out about Project Veritas, and all of us were like, why didn't they record anything? Why don't they have receipts? They're Project Veritas. Like, of all people, they should be recording things and they should have receipts. Well, guess what, guys? They did record things and they do have receipts. They just didn't release them yet. And this is a recording of the president of the Project Veritas board of directors talking about how they would never fire the staff without notice, without giving them severance. And then last week, lo and behold, they did fire the staff without notice, without giving them severance. So you can see that recording on my Twitter right now, and more to come on that very soon. But guys, please send love to all of the people who lost their jobs from Project Veritas, because I've been talking to a lot of them, and they are really, really, really good people who were just trying to do good work, who got screwed over by incompetent, ineffectual leadership, both from James O'Keefe and then from Hannah Giles, sadly. And we are watching the slow demise of Project Veritas, and a giant FU to all of the conservative influencers like Jack Posobiec, like Charlie Kirk, like Tim Pool, like Steve Bannon, etc., 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 that lied about what happened at Project Veritas, because Project Veritas was never bought and paid for by Pfizer. They never forced James O'Keefe out. James O'Keefe left and then went on a conservative smear campaign. And it is not only the fault of James O'Keefe that Project Veritas is falling, it is also the fault of every single conservative influencer who didn't bother to do any journalism, who didn't bother to call anyone at Project Veritas to say what's actually going on. I apparently am like the only person that's actually reported this accurately, according to the people who actually lived it. And you'll see receipts for that on my Substack. And so a giant FU to all the conservative influencers who made this happen, because truly, Project Veritas probably would have been fine had the conservative influencers, again, like Jack Posobiec, Charlie Kirk, Tim Pool, Steve Bannon, all of the different people, if they hadn't spread James O'Keefe's lies and James O'Keefe's smear campaign, then there would actually be more investigative journalism in the world and not less. So conservatives shooting themselves in the foot yet again to worship at the feet of James O'Keefe, who wasn't even doing journalism at Project Veritas. It is sad. It's blackpilling, but I'm going to keep telling the story because apparently no one else is going to do it. And I'm happy to be the one that puts stuff out there so you guys can actually see what happened. For those of you who are interested in the truth, we're going to tell the truth here. So that's the way it's going to go. You guys can check my Twitter and my Substack for that, and I do really appreciate it. All right, guys, please go ahead and mount that like button for me. Mounting the like button lets YouTube know to recommend my stream to other people. And again, I'm just going to pop up the video that we're going to be watching here today, which is 3 hours long. And again, guys, for everyone that's new here, the rules of the chat are as follows. I do not have an unmoderated chat, okay? This chat is not going to turn into a shit show. I want everyone to be nice. I want everyone to be cordial. We don't need to agree. We can have differences of opinions, but I have 2 rules. Number 1, don't be a dick. Don't insult me. Don't insult other people in the chat. I can do whatever I want because this is my house. But as long as you're cordial to me, I'm going to be cordial to you. If you start shit with me, I'm going to start shit with you, and you're not going to be here very long because I will just block you. And I have a bunch of mods in the chat that aren't going to take any grief either. So just be nice, guys. Just be chill. We don't have to agree. We don't have to be best friends, but we sometimes need to coexist together, groypers. So just don't be a dick. Number 2, no whining. If I ask you to stop doing something, just stop doing it. Like, don't complain, don't whine, don't say, I'm not doing that thing you told me to stop doing, because you are doing that thing I told you to stop doing. If you weren't doing it, I wouldn't have told you to stop doing it in the first place. So just chill, relax. This is going to be a nice, fun stream. And I'm fully expecting that I'm going to be shitting on the people who did this video as much as I'm probably going to be shitting on Nick Fuentes. Because I think Nick gets some things right. I think Nick gets a lot of stuff wrong. I suspect that I'm going to think that this video has a lot of stuff wrong and probably some stuff right. And so I will call balls and strike scrapers, but I need you to play along. Just be nice. That's all I'm talking about. And we do kind of have a third unofficial rule of the chat, which is that the don't be a dick rule doesn't apply to socialists. So if Autumn shows up, Autumn is exempt from the don't be a dick rule. You guys can bully Autumn. I don't really care all that much because Autumn leaves as a socialist. And if Autumn wants to come around my chat and cause problems, like I find her to be entertaining. She's our little pet socialist, but you guys are allowed to say whatever you want to her. I don't really care anymore. And so if Autumn comes around, she gets what she deserves, man. That's just the way it's going to go. All right, guys. who's ready to watch Nick Fuentes be exposed as an American fascist? Please again, mount that like button for me, guys. Let me know if you're on Team Nick. Let me know in the chat, Grapers. You're allowed to identify yourselves. You're allowed to be here. But I can't wait to see what we have today. Let's see what's going on. No, we're not gonna watch the countdown. We're not gonna watch the countdown. See, I always go too far on the countdown. Should have just let the countdown play. Whatever.
Been wanting to do this for a while now.
Does anyone know
David
who
and I
these guys
talked about
are?
doing this like back in July when Sneeko was at this rally, and then I forgot. And then
Yes,
saw
Autumn is our
Fuentes on
pet
Twitter
socialist.
talking about how when he turns 30, he wants a 16-year-old child bride. And as you know, I kind of have something against that.
That's a joke.
So I commented, and all of his trolls showed up to attack me. And I'm like, you know what? I think we should do that live stream now.
In Nick's defense, a 16-year-old would be pretty much a grandmother for, in Daniel Hakikachu's camp, right? Because, as long,
Does anyone know anything about these guys? Because I've never heard of them before. And so, if but you guys know me, I don't watch anything. So just let me know if you know about them.
The 16-year-old has like an 8-year-old daughter, and she has a 1-year-old. As long as that 1-year-old has reached precocious puberty and parental consent and so on, you can, have entire generations all before the age of 16.
Yeah, as long as the parents say yes, so no problem.
Yep. Groypers of the world, unite! Groypers. Where did they get that name anyways? Did that exist before? Or they like specially invented it?
It's something to do with the white nationalist movement. I mean, this is just kind of what they do. It's their term. I don't remember exactly where it comes from, but to me, it's not important. They're white nationalists. They're fascists. I mean, that's truly what they are.
They're honored to be here.
Now, okay, I don't necessarily think that Nick is way more of an anti-Semite than he is a white nationalist. I'm not going to say that Nick and his little crew don't have white nationalist tendencies. But they're actually not as bad as some of the real white nationalists, like the white well-being people. So, I mean, I want a definition. What do these people mean when they say white nationalist, and what do they mean when they say fascist?
Because we are going to talk about the Führer. We're going to talk about him, and they are going to defend him.
When the Führer gets attacked, they get a little triggered.
Yeah.
And then they end up, they don't realize the damage they do. I was talking to AP just before you came in, David, is like, those people, those environmentalists that go sit in roads and block traffic, thinking they're going to get their message out, and they end up just pissing everyone off.
Yeah.
This is what the Groypers ultimately do.
That's exactly what
there's some truth to
they
that.
Troll
Groypers
endlessly thinking they're going to get their message out, and they just make more people hate them. So with them showing up doing this, it's going to backfire. More people will see how crazy they are. And then this tiny this far right tiny movement is just going to get hated more because they're going to have more of a spotlight on them.
Well, I wouldn't say they're necessarily tiny. Nick Fuentes has 50,000 followers on Telegram. I wouldn't say they're tiny.
There's one thing that I'm wondering, genuinely. I should have asked this before we went live, maybe to you, Mike. But I know that these Groypers and these neo-Nazi people, they're not very, very smart. They don't have much in their heads. But what is that?
That is not true at all. Nick Fuentes is freakishly smart. In fact, all of us should be afraid of how smart Nick Fuentes is. You're telling me this is didn't Nick I think just had a birthday, because I learned this in his Telegram. So what is he, 25 now? Nick Fuentes at 25 years old has been banned off of everything, deplatformed off of everything, debanked 8,000 times, and he's still up and running and doing just fine. So don't tell me Nick Fuentes and his crew of Groypers aren't smart, because they Nick would not be as prominent as he is, and he wouldn't be living rent-free in the heads of all these people if they weren't smart. And it's their intelligence that should really scare all of us. Underestimate people at your own peril, guys.
Apple meme
It is something I'm not sure entirely guessed it. I think it's rather new. I know that Fuentes was on Twitter is like, "Hey Apple guy" for a little while.
Keeps following
And then he
me
got
from that
banned.
account.
So it's probably got something.
I was very
some sort
like
of like
honored to have
lingo they
Nick
have going
following
on
me
in
for
there.
3 minutes.
Thank you for the super chat,
Before he
Surfing
got
Cowboy.
banned.
Reminder: Nick knowingly harbored Ali Akbar, who is attracted to and flirts with underage boys in his organization of mostly underage boys. Wow. So yeah, this guy is apparently a Catholic, and this is the kind of crap he does.
He didn't
He was also very
co-sign that. Be
subservient
fair.
to Milo. Nick Fuentes was. He was taking orders basically from Milo. Milo was telling him in these leaked texts like, "You don't seem very dominant. The attendance at the rally was very low. This does not please me."
These people think that Nick Fuentes
What a
was taking
pathetic loser.
orders
Like,
from Milo.
we just called him jokingly the Führer, but
That's not
I
true.
mean, Nick Fuentes is like something like a high school Hitler or something like that. I don't know.
He's a wannabe Hitler.
Nick is just one of the many tradcath orth bros that are false converts using Christianity to further their wicked desires. Thank you for making this. Yes, you're absolutely right.
I want to invite all the groypers who are watching this. If you know lies that these people are telling about Nick, please let us know in the chat. I'm not saying we're going to take everything you say is like, you know, the perfect truth, but like you guys, like if there are groypers here, you guys are probably going to be able to identify these things, like lies that these guys are saying better than I will because you watch Nick more than I do. So just let us know. Yeah, and there is no way in this lifetime that Nick was taking orders from Milo because Nick hates Milo and Nick outlasted Milo on Kanye West's presidential campaign.
You're right. Thank you for the super chat. And that's what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to be putting up some of the stuff he says on the screen in his recent speech that directly contradicts what we read in the New Testament, showing this guy is a grifter. He doesn't understand what the Bible preaches.
Oh,
he
are these Christians?
Against its teachings in many ways. Yeah, he's basically fooled a lot of these poor young men who have been disenfranchised by modern society. And I get it. If you go on Google News and you type in white cis men,
wait, one of them is a diagnosed psychopath?
So what Nick has done is he's gone to these people and he has lied to them and manipulated them and turned them into the very thing the far cringy left wants them to be, racist anti-Semites. They have become the parody the left makes them out to be, and they played right into their hand by going
that's
to Fuentes.
true enough.
And so this guy needs to be exposed. He has lied to a lot of people.
Okay, so am I wrong to say these guys are leftists? Because I just assumed they were leftists. Maybe that was wrong of me. But so apparently they're Christians. Are they conservative Christians or are they leftist Christians?
Away from the actual teachings of Christ.
Like any people that regularly throw around the term like white supremacist and fascist, I just assume they're leftists. So maybe I was wrong about that, but Christian and ex-Muslim. These are conservative Christian. They're conservative Christians that are. These are conservative Christians that are throwing around the term white supremacist and fascist. All right, what a time to be alive. James Jones, thank you for the super chat. Very much so. They have a website and they're heavily into Christian apologetics. What does that mean, though? Like, I'm not sure exactly what that means. David Wood was, before he was a Christian, diagnosed as a psychopath. He grew up in a trailer park with abusive parents and he tried to kill his own father. Oh, all right. That's interesting. All right. Well, I guess we'll just see where this goes.
To teach Christianity. I have some studies we can go over showing how his ideas will lead away from the very teachings of Christianity. The more he promotes Christianity, the more Christianity will destroy his very movement. And studies show that. But you guys are ready. We can start on the video unless you want to say anything else.
Just one thing quickly. Did you turn on slow mode for the chat?
I don't know how to slow mode.
If you go into the live stream settings, you can
go to your live stream. Yeah, go to like your details on your thing, and then click.
Right, I know that definition. I just didn't know if that was the definition they intended or how they were applying it.
Maybe you should use this opportunity to turn on subscriber only mode so that all those groypers have to subscribe to your channel to comment.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, we'll get that going. Let's get the video going if you guys want to play, and I'll figure that out.
No, I wanted to say something first.
Mm-hmm.
while you're finding that out, do you see the things over on the side? What are your options once you go into your details of your live stream? Because I forget which one it is.
Wait, you talking about StreamYard or in the actual YouTube link?
In the actual YouTube link. I mean, and
Okay.
yeah, go to your actual YouTube.
Hang on.
Community moderation participants toggle.
Listen, I don't know why this person is getting timed out. I'm not doing it, but I haven't seen them do anything timeout worthy. So just guys, so for my mods, let the groypers be as long as they're not being dicks and they're not whining. Groypers, I would really prefer that you don't spam my chat, but like as long as they're not being dicks, please don't time them out. Thank you.
Moderation activity, pop out chat, toggle timestamp, send feedback. So yeah, I gotta figure it out.
What are you looking at? There's like a button that you go to.
Man, I don't know. I'm trying to figure this shit out. Let's just start the video and then we'll figure it out because I don't know exactly where it is.
Yeah, you go into the details just like anything else, and then there's an option over on the side that you click.
Oh, is that bot?
Oh, I just wanted to say, as far as Nick Fuentes, because you were talking about him.
I see.
Trying to appeal to Christians.
Stop
and spread his
fucking around. I
this
thought
is
we had a
something
real
that everyone's
groyper.
going to have to be dealing with in the very near future. I mean, everyone's already dealing with it, but you guys, you have not even seen the beginning of this. You can see it with like Andrew Tate, right? Like, hey, I'll say all this stuff over here, but as long as I'm throwing you Muslims a bone here and there, you guys are going to rally around me, even though I'm saying all this stuff that massively contradicts Islam. And you're going to be seeing that over and over again, where someone who has some messed up ideas in one area or something massively immoral or evil or something like that will pick a big group that he can rally around him and say, you see, I'm the champion of your group, and then try to lead them where he wants them to go. And so everyone's going to have to be dealing with that. We see it with this guy. We're going to be seeing that with a lot of people in politics, everywhere else. Hey, your group is worried about this. Just rally around me and do what I say, and I'll help you get what you want. When in reality, I'm using you to get what I want. But the entire world is ripe for massive manipulation right now.
Oh, we watched this speech from Nick.
Into one group or another.
He was a little anti-Semitic.
He was
which is a little bit.
Only one more thing here. A lot of people in the chat say, "Bring Nick Fuentes on. Bring Nick on.
Yeah.
Argue with him." I want to say, so I don't think this was planned, and I think that's pretty much out of question. But I would like to say,
I just want to say, I would totally bring Nick Fuentes on my channel if you ever wanted to come on my channel. I really would. I don't really exactly know what we would talk about or what questions I would ask him, but I would 100% bring Nick Fuentes on my channel.
I have my channel. If Nick Fuentes wants to talk, I will be happy to host him. He can be my guest, and I will be happy to have a discussion with him. So Nick Fuentes, get in touch with me.
I would say I wouldn't recommend doing that even on your YouTube channel. Not to avoid having the discussion, but because I mean, even in this lecture here, I watched about half of it. Even here, he's talking about when he goes on someone's channel with YouTube, those people get contacted by YouTube and threaten to terminate their stuff. So,
I would still do it.
I'm aware. But
I would
you
still
might want to
do it.
hit it on do it on like Rumble or Twitter or something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. I turn on slow chat and I turn on subscriber only. So if you Fuentes,
these are weak men. These are weak men right here. I would do what all three of these men are unwilling to do.
That's messed up. That's brutal right there.
Now you will have a bunch of Nazi subscribers.
Yeah, and you have to give a super chat if you want.
Always got to send a strong woman to do a weak man's job.
My job
I'll
is
tell you
to take
what.
the gospel to everyone, including the least of those and the worst of those. So I am perfectly fine preaching the gospel to Nazis and telling them to repent and abandon this false teacher.
I don't think that's going to work for you, bro.
I don't mind them coming here. They can come and hear the gospel. Watch my newest video I just posted.
I'm trying to think of who this guy reminds me of. He's kind of like a cross between a young Norm Macdonald.
He did look a little Hitler-esque in this speech. I'll give
a young
him that.
Norm Macdonald mixed with a little Pee Wee Herman and a Nazi. Oh no, a Hitler Youth. You know the Hitler Youth. So you had the full-grown Nazis that are going around fighting and stuff, but then you had the Hitler Youth, which are like kids spouting Nazi propaganda and snitching on their parents if they have any issues and stuff. Anyway, it kind of reminds me of that.
With those ugly short pants. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully they start subscribing here. But let's get into this video. As I was telling you guys earlier, you two with me here, A lot more I want to comment on is towards the end where he starts getting into it. A lot of the stuff on the front, he just goes after liberals, shows he's a misogynist, shows he's a Nazi, all that kind of stuff. But his actual
How are we
of his
defining
really,
those
really bad
terms?
arguments are towards the end. So we'll play a little bit at the beginning, and then if you guys are
How are
okay, I
you
want to
defining a
jump to his
Nazi? How are you
misquoting of
defining
the
a
Talmud.
misogynist?
Oh yeah, that's where I got to. I started looking up some of those passages. So anything after that, you're saying a lot of the stuff comes at the end. I haven't seen, unless I saw it in like a Twitter clip or something like that, when his fans were thought they'd like won the internet with this lecture.
Oh,
it's funny. He even says it. He keeps saying it in there. He's like, "We've got 500 people. We've already won. We've already won." I'm like, dude, do you have any idea? We've got 500 groypers.
Have these guys ever gotten 500 people to an event in their lives? Do you know how difficult it is to actually get 500 people to go to an in-person event? Like, if you can get 500 people to go to an in-person event, you're not doing too badly. I'm sorry.
500 groypers against the entire world. We've won.
Oh, this is gonna be amazing. All right, let's get going here. I'm sure that's playing.
And we're out here outside of SAS. We have close to 500 young people gathered here today.
That is actually
word
a big
getting
deal.
out that we got to get rid of Jewish power in America.
That's a little Nick is a little anti-Semitic in this speech. We've previously watched this entire speech, and so I guess we're watching it again. But he is a little anti-Semitic in this speech. Yeah, he is.
That's how he opens his speech, is that he goes right into anti-Semitism. And this guy's supposed to be a good Christian boy who loves everyone, and he just immediately just goes to race. Like oh no, like you realize you're a racist. Like you're basically saying the same crap Hitler said in the 1920s.
Wait, by the way, what is that a screen behind him that's playing this stuff, or is that like is that a special effect, like a background?
He's got the worst tech team. They play these really distracting clips behind him the whole time. Like whoever is doing his tech has no experience, or just is not that bright. I don't know.
So I want to quickly say a few things about. I don't know if you want to keep going. If you want to keep listening first.
Let's listen a little bit more, and then you can. Let's listen a little bit more.
They've done everything they can to stop it. They've censored, they've killed, canceled, blacklisted. But we are here to say that America is not a Jewish nation. America is a Christian nation.
No, wrong.
By the way, I mean, guys, you see, like, look at the wings they're trying to put behind them. They can't quite get the wings right. But I mean, guys, think about how this is like. It can be, you could be successful to a degree, but this is like very low level manipulation. Hey, everyone, you like America? Yeah, we love America. Yeah. Hey, are you a Christian like me? Yeah. All right. Well, we have to destroy the Jews. Oh, okay, cool.
That's basically it. Yeah.
America.
It's like the lowest form of intellectual, of right-wing intellectual activism is to simply go for.
Are you guys sure these guys aren't leftists? Because they really sound like leftists and they talk like leftists. And I'm not saying that Nick is good, but like these guys sound like leftists.
There are the Jews behind everything. There's a Jew behind all of the problems in the world. I'm not successful because of the Jews. Jews are in power. That's why so much stuff is not going our way. And it's just, I mean, you can jump into that without thinking anything through at all. It is idiotic. It is so embarrassingly stupid.
And
it is mostly based on ignorance, based on a paranoid way of thinking. He talks a lot here about Jewish power, about how
so which one is David?
Stranglehold where
the top,
America
the middle, or the bottom
is caught, and the rest of the world as well. We have to get rid of it. And there are no sources attached to that. When you ask where this Jewish power is, they will give you these images that were created in the early 2000s and posted online, and they still have the same.
I mean, David kind of seems to be like the dumbest one on this whole panel to me so far, if I'm honest about it.
Every media member is a Jew, and there is no real argument there.
Yeah, AP, I just wanted to check.
That's
with you.
not what
How
their
many
argument
times
is.
over the years have you been accused of working for the Jews and being funded by the Jews to do the stuff, because I hear that stuff all the time. When I'm not aware of one shekel.
Yeah, me either. I mean, all my donors just come from like these $5 or $15 donors I've got. I don't have any checks coming from Israel. But even what he's saying is completely contradictory to Christianity, because Paul says in Galatians, there's neither Jew nor Greek. Like, you don't judge people based on their race. You judge them based on if they're working for God, if they're sinning or not, what they're actually doing in life. You don't judge based on race. So his very message is just anti-Christian.
And the conspiracy theories are completely incoherent, right? Like, I get accused of going after Islam because the Jews have convinced I'm working for the Jews to go after Islam. But then when I complain about some Islamic teaching, I'll get these messages from these groypers, saying, David, if you have a problem with the spread of Islam, then you should be on Nick's side, because he's exposing the Jews. The Jews are the ones bringing in the Muslims. And it's like, wait. So let me get straight. Let me get this straight. According to you guys' theory here, the Jews have this brilliant plan whereby they're bringing in massive numbers of people who want to brutally murder them and destroy Israel. And then they're simultaneously funding people like me to expose the thing that they're bringing. Like, seriously, guys, that's your theory? And there's always some sort of what could you say is the plan there? It's just chaos. It's just chaos.
That's what they will argue, though. They will argue that the Jews are trying to create this environment of constant conflict and war and disorder, because that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do everywhere. And these are the same things that Hitler said, for example. Hitler said the very same thing, that they are these ruthless people who are at home everywhere in the world, and who are basically behind all the disorder, who don't want the nations at peace. It's always the same narrative over and over again. We don't want a genocide, but we have to get rid of Jewish power when there is no real Jewish power. Same speech, same words, same sentiment, over and over again. I was just mentioning to Mike before we went live how Muslims have been saying, "You are a Jew, you work for Israel," all the time. And
I don't buy this line that there is no Jewish power, because for a couple reasons. I'm not militant about this stuff or anything, but try saying that we shouldn't be sending money to Israel and watch what happens. Now, to be very clear, I don't believe in any foreign aid. I don't think we should be sending money to anywhere. And that means Israel too. I am sorry. That is just how I feel about it. But if you say that, like, bro, watch what happens. If you say anything that is contradictory to Israel, watch what happens. So don't tell me they don't have power. They absolutely do have power. There's a whole list of things you can't say on the internet, because you will have the entire fucking establishment coming down on you. And I found that out directly when I had a spiritual conversation that had nothing to do with people being Jewish at all. But I used the Holocaust as one example of a larger spiritual belief system. And I had fucking smear pieces hitting about me. I got fucking canceled on everything because I had a spiritual discussion for which I used the Holocaust as one example of a rule that I literally believe applies to every single person in the world, and everyone lost their shit. So don't tell me they don't have power. They absolutely do have power. I don't like it. I don't like that there are conversations that we're not allowed to have on the internet. And if there's any point that I agree with Nick Fuentes on, it is that one in particular. And we should not be funding Israel, because we shouldn't be funding any foreign aid at all.
the only other group that does the very same thing when you criticize them are these little neo-Nazis who are actually just a bunch of dummies who post memes online. And
they're not
even do
stupid.
anything in real life.
He's got angel wings. Being dumb, AP. The man literally has angel wings.
Thank you, everybody, for the super chats. I will go through them at the end. They are all being saved in StreamYard, so we'll get to them at the end. If you guys are okay with it, I want to go to where he, because the first half of this is him ranting, him making fun of women's bodies at one point, one specific, I think it's like Destiny's Girlfriend or something, like just showing how much of a misogynist he is.
Yeah, I saw
But
that.
towards the end, he gets into like why he thinks Jews are evil, and he takes a bunch of quotes from the Talmud, which he just gets wildly wrong. I went and tracked these down because I was actually like,
I did
where's
too.
he getting-
I did the same
Yeah.
thing. Have you noticed some things
Same.
like massively distorted there, IP?
Oh, very massively. This is what he is. He's a liar. He does this because he wants. He says this at the end. He wants a holy war with the Jews. And what is his reasoning? Well, these evil Talmud verses, these sections. Look, they want to kill us, so we got to go after them. Do you realize the level of manipulation here? He's using lies and quote mining the Talmud to get his followers to hate and become anti-Semitic, so that he can have his holy war. But
I
it's all
don't
based
have
on
that much
sand.
alcohol,
It's a
Sarah.
house
I only
bet on
have
sand
2
at this
cans of
point.
cider.
Yeah,
And if his followers don't know this, it shows you how manipulated and lost they are.
And the passages he brings up aren't like it's not like he went out and studied the Talmud. He's
No.
just quoting the same lists that have been around for like 100 and some years.
Yeah.
Of look what the Talmud says. And I'm sure we'll be taking a closer look at some of those passages here.
That's the funny thing. When I was completely neutral about all of this, when I was even a Muslim, I think, or when I left Islam, I saw these lists on the internet that were spread and shared around on these Nazi websites, and they always had the same lists: the true face of the truth about the Talmud. The Talmud says this about the Gentiles and that about the Gentiles, and I looked it up back then to find out if it actually does say it, and I had to learn that it's almost all of it is complete nonsense. Plus, so most of the quotes are completely taken out of context and misrepresented, but some of them actually don't even exist. And
Some of the sources are made up.
Yeah, and Nick Fuentes does the
Yep.
same thing still. After 20 years, he still comes with the same list in which citations are given that don't exist.
Yeah, and matter of fact, one of the quotations he is about to use is a made up source. At
Well,
least.
Shots or
Maybe
This
I'm
is also a great
completely
point,
missing
Lisa
something, and I've
Jean.
seen
Nope.
people
I
point out,
agree with you
hey,
on that.
maybe we're missing something here, but this source does not exist.
It's made up.
Yeah.
We'll come to that.
All right, well, let's keep going here.
Question Fit show this week, and Myron had never even heard of this. And I think it's true that many people haven't heard of this. They don't just believe in the written Torah. That's what they call it. There's the Torah, which is the scripture. This is the revelation by God. They believe in what's written there, but they also believe in an oral Torah that's not written down.
Nobody.
It's something that's transferred over the generations orally. That is until it was written down in the Babylonian Talmud in the beginning of the first millennium. And I want to just read you a few quotes from this Jewish Talmud. And in case you don't know, this is the holy book, their number one holy book, which they have believed in for thousands of years. This is the basis of Talmudic rabbinical Judaism.
Okay,
And I know because I looked at this list of quotes that's been circulating on the internet, and I just spout it. I just say it, even though I obviously didn't even bother to look up any of these sources, or I would have spotted the ones that are completely made up. But I don't even know that. But I'm the expert telling you that we need to prepare for holy war.
There's already so much to analyze here and to debunk here. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, the one thing is that the Talmud is not the basis. It's the Tanakh, the Old Testament. It's the Tanakh is the basis of their faith. And the Talmud is commentary. It's dialogue between different rabbis. They don't take everything in it as gospel, because it's debate going on. So there's contradictory statements in the
And
Talmud.
you can't take everything as a command, because they contradict you. The rabbis contradict each
That's
other
not even
over and
possible.
over and over again. It'll say this rabbi says this, and then this rabbi will respond and say, no, you're getting it wrong because of this. But then they will just go to the quotation by that first rabbi and then say, see, this is the command that all Jews are following in secret.
Yeah, it's pretty pathetic.
This is how they interpret the 613 commandments that are laid out in the written Torah. This is their application by the rabbis over thousands of years.
That was no
And up
considered
until just
backdrop.
recently,
Come on.
they all believe this, despite there maybe being atheist Jews today. These are a handful of selected quotes. Even the best of the Gentiles should be killed.
Wrong.
This is
Nope, not accurate at all.
I
no.
looked that one up too.
Yep. Go ahead. You go first.
You want me to break it out? Okay, so I was reading that it's basically someone who is familiar with the Talmud. When they see Rabbi so-and-so said this, they're familiar with Rabbi so-and-so's positions and his commentaries and what this is all connected to. And so they understand it. This guy just goes completely massacres the context and says, you see, it makes.
What does this mean? Why won't you call out the ones that are promoting the hate? Who do you want me to call out? What are you insinuating? You need to be more specific. I have literally already called out every single person on this video. So what more exactly do you want, or are you just complaining in my chat?
Notice, how did that sound according to the way he just.
All right, read your previous comment. I don't know where your previous comment was. Bro, put on your big boy pants and tell me exactly who you want me to call out and why. And if you can't do that, I'm just going to assume that you aren't old enough to know how to use your words to explain your position and that you should rightfully be ignored.
Just presented it. Even the best of the Gentiles should be killed. So this is talking about Gentiles in general. Even the best of us should be killed. When you go in context, this to the wider context of this rabbi's position, it starts with a commentary on the Exodus. Right?
Yes.
So you got that too, right? So there you have the independent confirmation here. So it's he's commenting on the Exodus, right? And he's talking about the Egyptians when they came out in their chariots. And so the discussion among the rabbis was, hey, wait a minute, didn't God strike their animals? Didn't God strike their animals? And yet they're charging out in chariots against the Jews. And so they reasoned, wait a minute, God must have only been punishing the really evil ones. And the others were not punished. Therefore, they're the ones who had animals. Okay, so guess what? Who are these people coming at us with their horses? Those are the good guys of the Egyptians who weren't hell-bent on rebelling against God, but they're still coming out against us because they're part of the army and they're told to come out against us. So they reasoned, wait a minute, these are guys who are not under God's punishment, and yet they're coming out against us. And so what do we do in these situations? The reasoning is, in a war, there are actually good people on the other side. There are people who aren't in rebellion against God or anything else, and there are really evil people. What do? And it's going to look, even the best of them, kill them. So if you're in a war, you can't make those kinds of decisions. Oh, he looks like a nice guy. Even the best of them, you fight. That's what I got, and that's the greater context of that command. Very, very different from the way he portrays it. But what were you seeing, IP?
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. It's in Sofrim 15:10 is where this actually is, and does have commentary on the Exodus. And it's exactly what you said. It's about killing in war. If these people are attacking, like when the slaves, the Hebrew slaves, are running away, and these people are chasing them in chariots, yeah, you got to kill them to defend yourselves. It's not you do this all the time. This is about an act of war. And there's
sense.
other passages like Tosefta, Sanhedrin 13, the righteous of all nations have a share in the world to come. So you have things like that in the Talmud as well, where it's actually talking highly of the Gentiles, that they will have a share.
Is this whole stream basically going to be like, they took Nick out of, Nick took it out of context, Nick took it out of context, Nick took it out of context, Nick took it out of context. Yeah, it's like, if duh, bro, duh. Every single person existing in politics today, except possibly, and I don't even think I'm in politics, but this channel takes things out of context. Every single person almost creating content on the internet takes things out of context. This is not duh, obviously.
The world to come. So, the idea that you can just sort of cherry pick these places out. But this is how bad Fuentes is at research. He didn't actually look at the Talmud like you and I did. It took us 15 minutes probably.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how long it took me to find this. He just found this list online, went with it because he knew it would rile up his supporters to get him in his holy war. That's what he's really about here.
And look at his followers. You can tell his followers, they do not care even slightly.
No.
And some are even saying, oh, that's like when Muslims say it's talking about what? No, it's literally talking about war. They're talking about an army marching out against you, and the idea that not everyone in it.
You guys have just called it, you guys keep calling his followers stupid that are in your chat, and then you wonder why they don't agree with things that you're saying. Well, you already spent the first part of this stream calling them stupid. What do you want?
Opposing army is some horrible evil person. Some people are just in the army, that's their job, and so they're following their orders to come and fight you. What do you do? That's the actual context. Nick just left all of that out. Now suppose you were trying to come to an informed decision about what you should think about the Talmud. Do you think it might be relevant to point out this is not saying that Jews need to kill?
Bro, if you're going to come in here and put all sorts of anti-Jew shit in my chat, that's not going to work out well for you. Things have already been called out about the fact that you can't say things like, I don't think we should be funding Israel, which apparently you weren't here for, but I do not want a bunch of anti-Jew, anti-Semitic shit in my chat. If you continue, then you won't be here for very long. I promise you.
All Gentiles, even the best of them. This is saying that in a context where you're fighting, there are not the people who are coming at you are not necessarily all evil, horrible oppressors. Because notice the reasoning that the rabbi who said this was using was God did not punish them. That's why they still had their animals. So God wasn't punishing them. So they were not among the people that God himself was punishing, which means they're not in the same category with the people that God was punishing. They're in a different category. How are we going to be punishing people, fighting people that God let slide?
Yeah.
There's also one fundamental difference here for those who say this is just like when Muslims say it's out of context. There is a huge difference between the Talmud and the Quran when it comes to their nature and their purpose. David and I, or Michael, would never sit down and actually criticize the Quran by giving a little quote from the Quran completely out of context and say, look, it says here, kill all of them. Therefore, the Muslims are supposed to kill everyone who is not a Muslim. We wouldn't even do that. But the major difference here is also the Quran is a book which was supposedly by the Islamic religion revealed by Allah and revealed as a direct message and a direct instruction for all Muslims to follow. So everything that it says, everything that it directly commands therein is a command to Muslims, and Muslims are supposed to follow that book word for word. The Talmud in that way is completely different. The Talmud is known to have been written down by the scholars. And the Talmud is not the direct word of God. The Talmud is not a collective of commands. The Talmud is mostly made up of discussions of scholars contradicting with each other because they are debating something, or of interpretations of the law. So you can find tons of quotes in there that if you take them at face value, you can't even follow them because two lines after each other completely contradict each other. That is not possible. That the Talmud is supposed to be studied in order to understand Jewish history, Jewish thinking, Jewish interpretation of the law, and so on. It is not meant to be a book that you follow word for word directly. So there's a huge difference there. You should understand that at first.
Yeah, let me just give a quick two quick quotations here to illustrate this in a different way. This is a quote from the Talmud. The righteous of all nations have a share in the world to come.
Yeah.
The righteous of all nations have a share in the world to come.
How is this possible?
Another quote. I call heaven and earth as witnesses. Any individual, whether Gentile or Jew, man or woman, servant or maid, can bring the divine presence upon himself in accordance with his deeds. Now notice that's in the Talmud. That's in the Talmud. So how does that line up?
That's a good point.
With the quotations that Nick is going to be giving here?
With what
Guess
Nick
what?
is saying.
It's a bunch of quotes from a bunch of different rabbis. That's what it is. You can unless you have some basis for thinking, oh, when a Jew.
Okay, so Nick Fuentes is taking points out of context to advance his little anti-Semitic campaign. Like, again, duh. Like, I think all of us knew that Nick Fuentes was taking stuff out of context just as much as these guys are probably taking things out of context, but none of this is an exposure of Nick Fuentes' inherent fascism. It's an exposure of Nick Fuentes' intellectual dishonesty about his positions, but that's not the same as fascism. I'm sorry. If you're going to call someone a fascist, you should have like a higher standard, is all I'm saying.
Goes to the Talmud, he's only going to pick these particular quotations from these like really, really hardline rabbis who were really enraged because of stuff was going on, and ignore everything else that goes against that understanding. That's how we're going to do it. And he's acting like all Jews, except for the ones that are now atheists, are on the same page there. And guys, even just saying that's how he's representing things. Doesn't that sound like really, really evil and slimy?
Yeah, very much is. And yeah, let's play the next line and we'll comment on it as well.
The Talmud. All children.
If you don't know that Nick Fuentes is taking things out of context, then you are a moron, and you probably deserve to be taken advantage of. If you don't know that these three guys are taking things out of context, then you are a moron and probably deserve to be taken advantage of. This is not difficult. These are content creators on the internet.
Children of the Gentiles are animals.
This is so ridiculous.
I looked that one up too.
Yeah, I didn't find anything like that. What about you, David?
Yeah, I did find the context was completely different. They're talking about laws about who a son is allowed to marry from the relatives of his father, like his father's brothers, ex-wife, and so on. Things that are forbidden. And they're talking about things like levirate marriage and so on. So they're talking about different. They're talking about different relations that you're allowed to have. And then the comment about the Gentiles. The comment about the Gentiles was they don't.
I don't know what, for people in the chat who are reading, I really don't know what is so difficult about saying I want a definition of the term fascism. I want a definition of the term, and I want to know how you're applying it to Nick Fuentes. Saying everyone who says things I don't like is a fascist is not an accurate definition of fascism. If you're going to make an entire video calling someone a fascist, then at least come up with a definition.
Had this patrilineage thing where the father is in this certain sort of relation, and therefore all these different relations with relatives of the father are forbidden according to the law. They're saying they don't have that. They don't have the patrilineage, and therefore a Gentile doesn't have that kind of relationship with these other people, and therefore it's similar to like an animal. Like if a horse has an offspring, you don't say, well, this horse has to be kept separate from these other things there. So you might say, I don't like that and stuff, but the way he's presenting it is, Gentiles aren't humans; they're beasts, or the children of Gentiles are animals and things like that. Wait, which one was I responding to? Those are two separate passages.
It's Yevamot 98a.
98a.
Yeah,
and
98a.
What it says here, basically word for word, is, and this here is the issue. These are old memes. He's repeating them. These are not actual quotes that he takes from the Talmud. These are just something that somebody wrote, which are claimed to be said in the Talmud. What the Talmud says here is, learn from this that the merciful one dispossesses the male Gentile of his offspring, as it is written with regard to Egyptians, whose flesh is the flesh of donkeys and whose semen is the semen of horses. Ezekiel 23:20, i.e., the offspring of a male Gentile is considered no more related to him than the offspring of donkeys and horses. So, what this does not, if you read this, mean that they are animals.
It's saying if you do not have this law, if you are not part of this patrilineage law, then it's just a biological relationship, and you don't have, the offspring of horses, you don't have all these rules to
I'm
follow,
falling
and
asleep.
neither
Why am
do
I falling
Gentiles.
asleep? This shouldn't be this
Yeah.
boring.
That's what it
Yeah.
looks like to me. But the point is, so you could look at that and you say, I don't like that. I don't like being compared to animals or something like that. The point is, when Nick and his groypers, when they quote this, they make it sound like saying, you're just animals we can slaughter at will. That has nothing to do with the passage. That has zero to do with the passage. This is talking about who are you allowed to marry? Like, if your father's...
Hang on, got a super chat from Philosophist. Thank you, Philosophist. All the groypers want to hear is, you're right, it's the Jews' fault. Just like woke people just want to hear, you're right, it's whiteness's fault, which whiteness means capitalism, and so on. Authoritarian rationale comes in all flavors. Well, that's exactly right. If they were making the argument that Nick Fuentes is wrongfully scapegoating all Jews because he's an inherent authoritarian collectivist, I could probably get on board with that if I'm honest about it. I could probably get on board with that. But that's not what they're doing. They're waffling around and they're he clutching their pearls. He took things out of context. No shit, Sherlock. It's just be better. If you're going to do a reaction video, at least be spicy, you know?
brother had a wife and then they divorced, would you, as a Gentile, be allowed to marry her? According to the Jews, you wouldn't be allowed to marry her if you're under the law. If you're a Gentile, you don't have that. You don't have that rule. So I don't know. Again, you could say, hey, I don't like the comparison, saying that it's more like the animals or something like that. But is this did he accurately represent what this passage is about? No. And I'm not aware of him. I'm not aware of him. I mean, guys, there are messed up things in the Talmud.
Yeah.
There are clearly messed up things that we would look at. And matter of fact, I've seen this from Jews. I've seen from Jews saying, hey, there are sections in here where we Jews would look at that and go, whoa. And that's why they're encouraging careful study and actually look at the ongoing debate and so on. But this guy, Nick Fuentes, is he quoting anything and representing it accurately? I have not seen him quote anything that he is representing accurately once you actually go to the passage. And guys, that's if that doesn't bother you, groypers, then you just don't care. And in which case, stop acting like you are the champions of truth and justice.
Well,
in the world.
Of course, the groypers not the
you're rallying around
a
deceiver who's trying to lie to people to get them to go fight Jews.
This is one very interesting thing to point out, in my opinion, as somebody who is not a Christian and who doesn't have a horse in this race. I would like to point out that
see, you're like a horse. You see,
if a supposed Christian nationalist, which is a modern code for fascist, has a problem with the comparison that is being made here in the Talmud, which is not meant to indicate that Gentiles are animals, then David and Michael enlighten me about doesn't Jesus in the Gospels also make a comparison between animals and another being
the Bible says those things about just
dog.
sinners.
Yeah, Noah, I hear you. You want me to watch Take History, and maybe I will at some point, but I don't really care to understand fascism right now. Hang on. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose was to understand why these people, who I'm still pretty convinced are leftists, because if it looks like a leftist and talks like a leftist, then come on. I don't care how people self-identify. If you're advancing leftist talking points and using leftist language, then at some point I'm going to assume you're a leftist. But I understand you want me to watch that. I'm going to watch this for right now, because this is what I'm not actually interested in, a real definition of fascism at the moment. But I hear your recommendation, and I'm sure we will at some point.
In general, calls us beasts and stuff like
So,
this. And
doesn't Jesus say in Matthew?
I'm going to be blunt. I don't care, because it is not currently relevant to what we're doing.
Giving the food to the dog.
Yeah. So you're thinking of
the woman he healed her daughter.
Jesus goes to Tyre and Sidon to get a break or something, and a Canaanite woman is coming up.
There's a Canaanite woman.
Heal my daughter. And he goes, it's not right for me to give the food that belongs to the children to the little dog. People get offended when they hear that. They don't realize the term Jesus is using is not a derogatory term.
Whoa,
It refers to a house pet.
Jesus
Like-
says all non-Christians are animals and they are dogs. Look at this.
Yeah, it's an analogy. And the
I
term
mean,
he uses is not even a derogatory
like I
term.
just said, they're talking a lot like leftists to me. Like I keep hearing leftist language, and so they might not consider themselves to be leftists, but the words that they're using, how they're using them, I have heard them come far more from people on the left than people on the right. I don't know who any of these people are. I judge them based on their language. That's what I'm hearing. Thank you. Fascism is right-wing socialism. Thank you. That's the definition that we're going with. Fascism is right-wing socialism. If people don't like hearing that in the chat, you can cry all the feelings you want somewhere else. But I just want to remind people the two rules of the chat are don't be a dick and no whining. The definition we're going with for right now, unless these guys want to provide a different definition, which they don't seem inclined to provide any definition at all, is that fascism is right-wing socialism. Thank you, Philosophus, for boiling that down into nothing. Oh, trust me, bro. You can be a right-wing authoritarian just as much as you can be a left-wing authoritarian. You can be a right-wing collectivist just as much as you can be a left-wing collectivist. And if you're going to whine about it, you won't be here for very long.
Refers to like a very pampered house pet, if I recall. And so basically he's making an analogy, and then, in the same...
See, and now we're having all the people, Noah, don't fucking tell me that this stuff doesn't exist on the right. Don't fucking tell me that this is just all the left. That is bullshit. This stuff absolutely does exist on the right. It is clear as day to anyone that's not a tribal cultist. And so please, bro, don't bullshit a bullshitter. We all are smarter than that here.
Gospel, Matthew, at the end, he said,
oh, I don't understand history. I don't understand history. You don't understand the rules of my chat, and you just got put in a timeout. And if you keep reading in my chat and whining and complaining when I don't do what you want me to do and I don't say what you want me to say, you're not going to be here for very long. Enjoy your 5-minute timeout. We'll see if you come back.
Because now that everything has been fulfilled, I've resurrected. There's atonement. Now you can be the light to the nations.
Boom,
now take
and
the gospel to all
now I'm gonna
the
start
nations,
banning people. It's gonna
which
be
is
fun.
what Israel was supposed to do. Jesus in his ministry is working with Israel because he's setting them up to be the church to take the gospel to the nations. This is why at this point with the Canaanite woman, he says it's not right for me to do this yet. He does it anyway though. Because he's a merciful God, but he's basically saying, look, right now he's setting up the whole ministry of Israel being the light to the nations. This is what the early church was. They were all Jews, and that's kind of what's set up, and that's how it ends in the Gospel of Matthew. Now we take this to the whole nation. So that's generally the whole historical framework of that whole story. Yeah. All right, let's hear the next lie from Fuentes.
Gentiles are not human; they're beasts. A Jew.
Wow.
No, not in there.
Wrong.
That is horribly taken out of, horribly misrepresented. It's not even there. I'm not saying taken out of context. It's not even there.
Yeah, I found the passage, the closest passage.
Bava Metza 114.
The closest passage to that was talking about graves, and the question was, how is
Exactly, Emily. That's why the politically homeless can see fascism on both sides, because they're not part of either tribe. The right can't see their authoritarian tendencies. The left can't see their authoritarian tendencies because they're shilling for a political tribe. Both sides are authoritarian.
how is this was he a priest or something like that? It's like, how is this guy standing in the Gentile graveyard? And that should make him unclean. Why is he going there if it's something that will make him unclean? And the defense of that guy from a rabbi
see if they ever actually have something go on that's interesting.
The man who
no,
so,
bro, shut the fuck up. Come on.
Not in there.
I think it's actually Avodah Zarah 36b.
Oh my god.
And that's a made up source.
It's a made up source.
Dude, Did they just let Nick talk for 2 seconds?
Quotations, which are often made up, completely fabricated. Just the entire picture he's given. These are the list of things. This is what their book says, and they believe in this. Just stating what this actually is, that it's recording an ongoing debate about how to act. And this rabbi said this. Oh, this rabbi said the opposite. This later rabbi came up and went in with a middle position and so on.
Mhm.
And is he at all? I mean, is he even in the ballpark of representing any of this accurately? No. And his fans do not care. This is guys. This is a classic example of cult tactics in action.
So this last
Only-
quote
only
is
Jews-
Wait, no. This is where this goes off the rails, because again, like, I don't like what Nick is saying, but to say that Nick, and I actually do think the Groypers are a little cultish. I really do. It's part of the reason that we pay so much attention to them, because it is a little cult. But to say that Nick Fuentes is saying things that I don't like, and his followers like what he's saying, and they don't listen to me, but they listen to Nick, so they must be in a cult. That's not reasonable. You can disagree with what someone says, but that doesn't mean that their followers are like necessarily in a cult. Like, not by that logic. Nick is allowed to have supporters. He's allowed to have fans, just like you're allowed to have supporters and you're allowed to have fans. It seems to me that this guy on the bottom that people keep telling me is a conservative, but really doesn't strike me as very conservative, is like, his biggest problem is that Nick Fuentes is more well-known and popular than he is. Honestly. Is that really the complaint from all of these guys, that like Nick Fuentes is more well-known and popular than they are, and so they're taking him down by nitpicking a speech that was a rally speech that everyone knew was bullshit in the first place?
Do fact checking. Only Jews look things up.
You fact check, you're a Jew. You're a Jew.
this last line is apparently on lying, and I looked this one up, and again, he's taking this one wildly out of context. But let's play this one.
They kill us.
I think the Groypers are a cult, but that's not the point. The point is that not by these guys' logic. Just because I do think the Groypers represent like a certain cult-like fanaticism around Nick. But my point is that there are much better ways to call them out and much better reasons to call them out, other than I don't like what Nick Fuentes says and therefore his followers are a cult. That's not logical. You can dislike what someone says. You can disagree with someone's supporters. But like, just because you don't like what someone says doesn't mean they're in a cult. Even if they self-admit that they're in a cult.
No problem. We kill them.
Hang
or
on, I
hit
got
them.
a super chat. Noah is back from his timeout, and he is still reading in my chat. Hitler and Mussolini were both historically confirmed members of the Communist Party till they evolved their own versions of socialism. Tick history. Well, bro, I'm really glad you get all your information from YouTube. Nothing could possibly go wrong with that plan. You let creators on YouTube do all your thinking for you, so you don't ever have to do thinking for yourself. You don't ever have to do research for yourself. You don't ever have to look into things for yourself, because you allow people on YouTube to do all your thinking for you, and then you simply regurgitate the talking points of other people to annoy everyone else when we're not even talking about this right now. So you can thank you for the money, bro. But it seems to me like you're working through some feelings around the fact that I don't want to talk about what you want to talk about right now. I do not care. That is not the point of this stream. If you continue whining in my chat, I don't care if you send me money. If you're going to keep whining in my chat, you better make the super chats a lot bigger than $5. Because that's the only way I'm going to allow you to keep whining in my chat, is if you send in much bigger amounts than $5. Because anything that is like in a lower end is not worth the whining that I have to put up with in order to get that money.
Them, you die instantly. Those are the rules. And then this is the best part, because I know they'll come in and clarify, and a lot of them want to run interference. They say, no, you just don't understand. That's not actually what it means. You're just interpreting it wrong.
And that's a made-up
they always
source.
say.
It's a made-up source,
That's
dude.
a made-up source.
But this is the last part, and this is my favorite part. It says this: Jews may use lies to circumvent the Gentiles.
Uh-huh.
So,
Oh, does it now, Nikki? Does it, Nikki?
Where's the source? Can you just tell me what exactly it says? Can you quote it? Can you do the very same thing?
And I don't know,
because
because I told you I already
gave
gave up looking up
Yeah.
these sources after he was oh
Then
for
why
8.
are you talking about it?
Can you
So
imagine if
this-
we did this, David? Can you imagine if
Yeah.
if our criticism of Islam consisted of just going on a stage or going live and saying the Quran says kill all the disbelievers, the Quran says you can rape them, the Quran says this and that, and we never give sources? Can you imagine
Or even more extreme, AP, if we went through the entire history of debates of Muslim sheikhs over their understanding, and we quoted Muslim sheikhs who said something at some point that's really, really bad, that is not found in the actual Quran or from Muhammad. It's just something that some sheikh said at some point, and other sheikhs contradicted him and quoted the sources that show that he's wrong and so on. But we just quote that sheikh and say, you see, this is the official position of Islam, and all Muslims believe this. We wouldn't do it, because we're not like, I mean, what actually happens in discussions? We say, oh, look, it says right here, fight those who do not believe in Allah and so on. And Muslims, oh, you're taking that out of context. We say, let's read the context. Let's actually go to the source, because we're not making up the source. Let's read it in context. Why do we quote the Muslim scholars and so on to show that?
Noah, you're gonna cut the shit in my chat right now. I don't care, bro. I have told you Noah, there are 2 rules in my chat, Noah. Don't be a dick, no whining. I have told you to stop whining 4 or 5 times now. I'm getting fucking sick of it. If you continue whining in my chat because we're not talking about the things that you want to talk about right now, I will simply remove your ability to ever chat in again. I know you've been on the channel before. I recognize you, but I'm not, like, the constant fucking whining has gone too fucking far. The no whining rule exists for a reason. Take your feelings elsewhere, bro. It is not the point of what we're doing right now.
For 14 centuries, they all interpret this in one standard way. And it's not until you get to the modern age where they start interpreting things differently. So we actually go through, we quote the Muslim sources, and then we examine the context. We examine what their greatest scholars and so on say. That's like the opposite of what this dude's doing. I mean, one, just completely made up sources some of the time. Other times, just like, if you actually understood what the Talmud is, you would not be acting like, Jews walk around with this list of commands in their pockets about how they're going to, kill all Gentiles and so on. This is the takeaway. This is the takeaway. The Talmud.
You complaining in my fucking chat off topic from what the topic actually is not helping anyone learn anything. If you continue, you're going to get banned. The only reason you haven't been banned yet is because I recognize you from being here before. But I am no longer fucking around, bro. No one asked for your help. No one asked for your input. No one asked for your lectures on what you think is important, because we are doing something else right now. Jesus Christ.
Talmud. I mean, it's just guys. I mean, I knew nothing about this guy until very recently, when he was there with
Sneeko.
Yeah, and then before that, I saw him with Kanye. Didn't know anything about him before that.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm looking at this going, I would not trust this guy with anything, let alone to be a leader of a movement. This guy's a freaking liar.
Hey, speaking of Kanye, what's funny? I'm sorry, IP, you keep wanting to talk, and
I want to get the. I'm going to read the actual Talmudic source here.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Yeah, the thing about Kanye, which is very funny. I know this is petty right now, but I just want to be petty for a second. Nick Fuentes went on Just Pearly Things channel and gave an interview there, and he was acting very cool, and he was bragging about Kanye. Because Kanye fired everyone who was ever around him, and he didn't like Milo. He fired Milo and all of that, and then he brags and he's like, but not me. He loves me. He loves me. He wouldn't fire me. And then, not much later, Nick Fuentes got fired by Kanye.
Love it. So
it's so ridiculous.
So here's the actual Talmudic source. It's Bava Kama 1 BAVA KA MMA 113A. So I'll read the full context. Rav Ashi said the Mishnah issues its ruling with regard to a Gentile customs collector. So specifically a customs collector, whom one may deceive as it is taught.
I don't care.
A Jew and a Gentile
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
If you can vindicate the Jew under Jewish law, vindicate him and say to the Gentile, this is our law. If he can be vindicated under Gentile law, vindicate him and say to the Gentile, this is your law. And if it is not possible to vindicate him under either system of law, one approaches the case circuitously, seeking a justification to vindicate the Jew. This is the statement of Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Akiva disagrees and says, one does not approach the case in order to vindicate the Jew due to the sanctification of God's name, as God's name will be desecrated if the if the Jewish judge employs dishonest
I'm fast
means.
forwarding.
Okay?
Do they ever let Nick talk?
Wants to do if he were to get charged and become king of America.
I haven't even seen this, so this will be new to me.
Is this where he mentions that he wants to get rid of democracy and get rid of?
I've been to church before. It's not this bad.
This is where he wants to kick out all the immigrants, and he starts talking. This is where he gets really racist because he starts saying how much better Europeans are, and it's really disgusting.
People are pouring in illegally, legally, and they're having kids. They're having lots of kids. They all feel very strongly about our country, about our people, about our culture. And newsflash, the next time it's a George Floyd, the next Nahel, like it is in France, guess who it's going to be? Looting, burning, rioting, tearing up the cities. It's going to be the second and third generation of immigrants. That's why they have to go now. That's why they have to go
That's not true, Nick.
And I've got 500 18-year-old followers. So we're going to get
again, this guy on the bottom who allegedly is a conservative, but more just seems like a jackass, like that really wants attention to me. Like, he keeps ragging on the fact that Nick has 500 people in the room. He's like, he only got 500 18-year-olds. Bro, again, 500 people? Does anyone know? Has this guy, on the bottom, has he ever turned out 500 people at an event to see him? Because again, getting 500 people to get on a plane, get a hotel room, come to a convention center, especially when they're 18 and they don't have a lot of money, that's actually a pretty big effing deal. I'm not talking about a local thing where everyone knows you. Nick, okay, well then, Noah, give me an example of when he has gotten 500 people to travel to an event specifically to see him. Give me one example. Rottweiler, thank you for the super chat. I don't know what the hell is going on, but I have a super chat. I see Nick Catboy Fuentes is always a cause of chaos. Well, ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? I mean, just because you have a lot of subscribers on your channel doesn't actually mean anything, though. Patty, he admits he's a narcissist. He definitely has narcissist vibes. I'm not lying. I don't like that guy on the bottom at all. So if anyone can give me one example of when that guy's ever gotten 500 people to get on a plane, get a hotel room, come to a convention center to see him give a speech, I would love to hear it. But I suspect that that has probably never happened because it's actually really difficult to get 500 people to do those things. Oh, he's the psychopath. Okay, that explains a lot.
Done.
500 guys. It's over. Those immigrants are going
500.
to lose.
It's done. We've won.
Send them back. And not send some of them back, not send some, the whatever, the criminals. We have to send every single last illegal back home today. Gotta go. Every single one, and it could be a great thing. How many of you would volunteer to deport all these people? And that was an option. Everybody.
All 500 of us, Nick.
I mean, this is a brown shirt movement. This is very Nazi-like. Let's get these volunteers to go around and ruffle up people that are not German or white, and it's brown shirts. That's what he's doing here. This is the exact same tactics Hitler employed. Let me get all my volunteers around to go up and get the immigrants out of the country. That's basically what Hitler was doing in the 20s and early 30s.
So here's the thing. So there is one aspect of what he says that I don't necessarily have a big objection to, which is that illegal immigrants, don't necessarily belong, and that illegal immigrants should go back. I could say, okay, you could say that it's a fair political statement. It is not necessarily, racism, Nazism. This can be actually a quite mainstream conservative talking point.
It is a conservative talking point. There's so many people saying that
over the last century. And
by the way, like, conservatives continuing to hammer on the immigration stuff, it just pisses people off. I hope conservatives understand that, because conservatives are the only ones who hit on this point. Everything that Nick Fuentes just said, like, mainstream conservatives are saying the same thing. They might not be saying it behind a video backdrop of fire, but mainstream conservatives are saying exactly the same thing that Nick Fuentes just said. And quite frankly, conservatives are the only ones who care about immigration. Most libertarians don't really care about immigration. Even if they're not, like, there are a lot of libertarians that are open borders, but even if they're not open borders, like, it's not even in, like, the top 10 list of things that they care about. There are things that are, like, way more important to them. Like, people on the left don't care about immigration at all. So
you could make arguments for that, but of course that is not all that is being said here. What is being said here is not just we shouldn't have illegal immigration, and I agree with parts of that. I think illegal immigration is quite harmful. It causes disorder on many levels.
I agree.
But that's not the point here. The point of him is specifically to deport, to make a separation between races. Earlier in the discussion, he talks very much about how this is a white nation and a white country, and you shouldn't.
Well, he's about to say that again.
You shouldn't be surrounded by black people and things like that. It's more than just illegal immigration.
And by the way, this is all part of the manipulation. We see the same thing with Andrew Tate and stuff. He'll say a bunch of things where people are like, "He's right about that," and then when he says the horrible evil stuff, you say, "Oh, look at this horrible evil stuff." And they go, "But he's right about that." Yeah, that's no manipulator in the world is going to come to you, ladies and gentlemen, and say 100% false things. They're going to say a lot of things that you agree with. They're just going to use those things to send you in a really, really messed up, very dangerous direction.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so if you're talking about, so notice, oh, look at them burning, look at these guys burning France to the ground over this stuff. What are we going to do? Okay. Yeah, there's a case to be made for taking the troublemakers and locking them up or deporting them or whatever you're going to do. He understands that his listeners will agree with that, but notice he actually wants a much more extreme position.
Oh yeah, he's about to get into that. Yeah.
Yep.
And we got to send them back. That's the other thing. And we didn't touch on this too much, but this is the number one reality in the world today, which nobody talks about. It's the most significant thing happening in the world, which is that Western white civilization, which is a civilization that gave us the modern world. This has been the civilization for 500 years.
No one talks
These are
about
the
this.
people that evangelized the New World. They evangelized Africa, Asia, created the railroads, the Industrial Revolution, created everything.
No one
This
talks about this.
civilization, and it's at that level. It's not just America. It's not just France. It's not just Canada. It's happening across the board. The entire civilization, which gave us everything that we love, is being destroyed purposefully and deliberately by mass migration. And the problem with mass migration, it's not that they're taking the jobs. It's not that they're committing too much crime. It's not that they don't assimilate. It's because they don't belong here. This is not their country. It's the bottom line. And they don't belong here because they're not like us. We can have some immigration. You can bring in probably 50,000, 100,000 people. It wouldn't make a big difference. We're bringing in 7 million illegal immigrants in just Joe Biden's first term alone. 7 million. We're getting to the point where whites will be less than 25% of the population by the end of the century.
So
that's not immigration. That's not an immigration program. That's an invasion. That is a straight up population replacement. And
just to be really clear, and I said this the last time we watched this speech, Nick is being a little racist here. It's a little racist. Some might argue a lot racist. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. That's not the point of this. The point is to understand different perspectives. And so, I'm letting it play, but I don't agree with what Nick Fuentes is saying.
And it's happening at a racial level.
But think about the melanin. Think about
the poor
melanin.
This is pure stupid, and he's entering my wheelhouse here because I've done a lot of this sociological research here. He's making it as though there's something special about being European or having white skin. There's no evidence at all whatsoever that somehow makes you special or somehow is responsible for Western civilization. It's just blatantly false. I got studies. For example, there's one paper here that I have by Robert Woodbury, which I have cited numerous times, Missionary Roots of Liberal Democracy, noting that the colonial officials were going out, exploiting resources, taking it back to Europe, and Christian missionaries were the ones who were saying, like, no, you got to treat these people like equals. You just can't take their resources, and they would organize the people to form non-governmental organizations to rally for colonial reform, these types of things. There's another paper here that I have on this is what page is this? So it's from the British Journal of Political Science, Competitive Religious Entrepreneurs, Christian Missionaries in Female Education in Colonial and Past Colonial India. What they note in this paper is that they did an OLS model and a multivariate analysis, and they looked at different factors of what led to more female education. Ultimately, it was missionaries, what they concluded. But they also note in this paper that direct British rule or colonialism did not correlate with increased education levels for boys or girls in India. So Western civilization didn't create better education in other regions. It was directly Christian missionary activity, which is not directly tied to being European. The benefits of Western civilization did never come from white skin, ethnicity. It's come from trade, resources, geography, and Christianity. Those are the main factors. It has nothing to do with white skin. He is basically committing a correlation causation fallacy.
You know that Christianity didn't come from white people, right? No, he doesn't know that, I'm sure.
He doesn't have any idea of the history of the sociology here, and he's making all sorts of fallacies.
And that's what I was pointing out that he does. He takes something that is a concern, even a legitimate, that is a legitimate question. How much immigration should you have? Especially if you have people who go to another country illegally. Some of them are just, okay, I'm just coming from a hellhole. I just want to get out of this hellhole and go to someplace. But some people are criminals. Some people are just criminals and gang members and drug smugglers and everything else. So you're getting a mix. So, how do you deal with that problem? And, how many people do you take in? Do you take in 100,000? Do you take in 1 million if you can? Do you take in more? What do you do? Those are all legitimate questions.
You haven't been here in a minute.
There are things that lots of people could reasonably be concerned about and have a discussion about those kinds of things. But where does he take it? You see, they're going to replace you white people. There's going to be a lot more brown people around here unless we stop it right now. And so he turns actual concerns about things like crime and drug smuggling and all these other issues, and turns it into a concern about your skin color.
You know what's very interesting, what's very funny, you mentioned the influence of Christianity and how Christianity brought a lot of these good things that we appreciate.
Yeah, I bet that hurts your
very,
feelings, doesn't it, atheist?
No, it's actually, I'm very supportive of the idea, considering that that I'm aware of Roman history, of European history, of pre-Christian history, and if you learn a little bit about it, if you learn a little bit about the tribes of Europe, the Germanic tribes, and all of that before the Romans arrived, and then before Christianity arrived and started spreading, and things became civilized, you will find out that the European tribes and the European populations were pretty messed up and pretty barbaric, pretty savage before the arrival of. Pretty savage.
I don't know, Kino. I'm still trying to figure that out.
I guess you could, if the average population today acted like, I don't know, relatively adapting to the time right now, the way Western Europeans acted before the arrival of Christianity, you would call it degeneracy, you would call it filthy, you would call it disgusting, barbaric, whatever it is. It was the arrival of the Romans made things more orderly, and the arrival of Christianity made things much more civilized. Prior to that, Europeans didn't have a very good reputation. They didn't have a reputation of being, very, very, very well educated, of being very peaceful, of having a lot of, social cohesion, and of building civilization. They didn't have any of these things. Christianity came as a means of scholarship and education and peace and building something, rather than just fighting with each other, sacrificing each other, looting each other, raping each other, and so on. That said, I think it might be ironic to consider. I think that out of us three here, I might be the most appreciative of Western people and Western culture, and I really have a strong appreciation for Western people and Western culture. And I think Western culture is very distinct in being quite advanced and spreading wonderful things to the world even today, which is why the world is quite often readily accepting of Western culture and everything that comes from the West. But that has nothing to do with the race. It has nothing to do with any of that. Correct. It is and this is even known in recent history as the Great Divergence, right, where the Europeans had a major shift and became extremely successful compared to the rest of the world, and basically started leading the world.
I don't care. Are you going to say anything interesting at all?
Began to become.
Yes, go outside, not a.
Unfortunately, that's just on the broad. That doesn't mean every atheist is going to be violent.
AP.
But that's just AP. But that's just generally what the trend tends to be.
Atheists. Mm-hmm. Atheists.
What's happening is a public problem. What I mean by that is everybody likes to say, "So what? Touch grass, go outside, not a big deal. Don't ruin your career talking about these things." These are things that cannot be, the things that are being destroyed cannot be replaced easily. These are not things that you can go out and get. You can make a lot of money.
We're gonna watch Nick's response.
We're gonna able to buy a beautiful.
We're gonna watch Nick's response to it in a minute. I'm bored. I'm really bored.
You'll never
honestly.
be able to replace timeless artifacts, traditions,
and that makes me sad. I shouldn't be this bored.
And these are the things that make our civilization worth preserving. Our civilization, the way it is now, will never produce another Mozart, another Rembrandt. It will never produce more great art, philosophers.
But we hope it'll produce another Hitler.
What does this guy think the average population looked like in the time of Mozart? What does he think? What does he think society looked like in those times where philosophers and great artists emerged? Does he think everyone was like these very romantically depicted Europeans that you see in movies or on theater screens? That's not how things were. This is just such a dumb take.
Yeah, it's. I mean, his idea is that we can't reproduce these things. That's just ridiculous. I mean, what about Andy Warhol? I mean, there's another great artist that was very recent in the past. I mean, there's great artists happening now. I don't know what he's talking about here. So like, sure.
like what in the
That's
world,
actually a good
like
point.
what in the world is he talking about? Like,
Oh, they
There
were
is
white.
great art
Okay, they were
happening now.
white.
That's a
That's
good
yeah.
point.
yeah,
Okay, well,
that's what I mean. You still got white people. You still got white people. So
And a
there's
lot of that
obviously
great art is not
something
being
else.
created
You
by
still got
white
tons
people,
of
by the
white
way.
people in Europe and in the U.S. What do you mean if you can't have another Mozart? What's the reason? Is it because like brown people are moving in? Because I think there are lots of factors involved in issues like that. But I mean, just social media and stuff fries people's brain.
Hunter Biden is not
it's
a
like
great
philosophers.
artist.
If you go
Come
back
on.
to Augustine and Thomas Aquinas and stuff like that, these are guys who had no distractions at all. And you could just focus on what you're doing, and you had nothing else to do in your entire.
For the record, none of the art behind me on my wall was created by a white person. Create is not a white person, and Brito is not a white person. Actually, the one that you can't see over here, this is a Salvador Dali. That, you can make the argument Dali was white. Fine, whatever. But like, Create is not a white person. Brito is not a white person.
Life, except be that thing. Now there are all these drains on your attention and so on. But what in the name of common sense does that have to do with race or anything else that he's talking
Ain't
about?
it the true with anything, Renan?
No, in his reality, I guess we would never get a George Washington Carver or Frederick Douglass or Albert Einstein, for example, because these people are not traditionally white Europeans. I mean, Einstein's Jewish, so like you can, of course, non-Europeans do great things when they're given the resources. So like, I don't know what he's talking about here.
Einstein was Jewish, you see.
You can buy a plastic car, you can buy a Tesla, you can buy a nice condo. It doesn't replace these things. It's a public problem, and it's happening at a civilizational level. So therefore, it would follow that this requires a public solution at the civilizational level. There is no substitute. There is no alternative. We have to take over the government and send all these people back. That's it.
That's authoritarian, Nick.
Like,
what kind of fantasy land does this guy live in? Like, let me break this down for you very quickly. All right. So I'm pretty darn white. I married my wife. She's
Just for the record, no one that we're watching here today actually understands what the left is doing and what the left is pushing for. Because whiteness, white supremacy, racism, whatever, does not refer to your skin color when you are talking about leftists. It refers to being part of the bourgeois as opposed to the proletariat. Bourgeois, property owners, landlords, business owners, CEOs, capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. It does not mean your skin color. It means capitalism. So on the basis of that alone, every single person we're watching right now is a moron. Or maybe they're not a moron. Maybe I'm being too harsh. But they certainly don't understand what exactly they're talking about, which is part of the problem. Well, Nick Fuentes doesn't understand this either. Nick Fuentes is legitimately an anti-Semite. He is. Come on, let's just be honest. He is. He's also a little bit racist. So Nick Fuentes is one of those people that wants to take advantage of what the left is doing and take advantage of the code words that the left uses in order to advance his little anti-Semitic racist agenda, because those things are, that's what he's doing. But this is the thing, guys, and this is why it's actually important to understand what the left is saying when they use words like whiteness and white supremacy, because people like Nick Fuentes will hijack what's happening to try to use it for his own purposes. And people like these guys, when they don't understand what these words actually mean, are allowing Nick Fuentes to hijack it and use it for his own purposes.
He's half white, half white, half Asian. Her sister is half white, half Asian, who married a guy who is half white, half black. my brothers are part Hispanic. Their dad was half Nicaraguan. And
Kino, I just saw your DM. Kino just sent me a DM of a video called "Fat Phobia is Not a Sexual Preference." Maybe we should watch a good fat phobia video for happy hour this week. We haven't done a good fat studies video in a while. Those are always the best because they're like, if you guys think that like the whiteness stuff is crazy or the queer stuff is crazy, like the fat studies videos are next level insanity. I'm gonna find us a good fat studies video to watch this week. You guys are gonna love it.
And my oldest son is courting a woman who is half white, half Hispanic. And so the point is, like, that's how quickly you don't have to go back very far to where you weren't allowed to be mixing races. And now here we are just a few decades later, and everything is being mixed up. So the point here is, 20 years from now, what hope do you have? It's all mixed up. Yes, you will still have like just, pure white people over here, pure this over here and something like that. But the bulk of the population is going to be some level of mixture, which means if you really want to,
I can't listen to these guys anymore. I can't. So what I want to do is I want to watch Nick's reaction to this and to see what he has to say, because this was also posted in Nick's Telegram by Nick. Is his reaction to the video that we just watched that, I'm sorry guys, I can't watch. I'm falling asleep over here. And I don't normally like you guys know, I will sit through like 4 or 5 hours of socialism and be totally fine. I am literally falling asleep with how effing boring that effing video was. I'm sorry. I did you all a disservice today. I thought because Nick was talking about it on his Telegram, it was going to be so much better than it was. I apologize to all of you. That was worse than Socialism Saturday. But Nick posted a 12-minute response video to it, or was clipped off of his show, whatever. And so let's see what Nick had to say about it. Whatever. Everyone should have their chance.
And I was reacting to this video that these three like Protestant Christians did, reacting to the Fuentes rally from July. And maybe you saw it. I'm going to talk about it briefly. I didn't plan on it, but I just remembered. And so, I did this big rally. I think it was July 14 or 16. And I talked about in the speech how we have this Jewish elite. Everybody knows it now. The word is getting out. Everyone's talking about it. And that's not controversial even to say. I mean, it is, but it shouldn't be.
Well, hang on. Sam is making a good point. Sam says, and I'm going to turn down my volume a little bit because his volume is different than the people we were just watching. Sam says, I feel that the fact that Nick reacted to this is just as revealing because it was not hard-hitting at all. I agree. I have been way more mean to Nick in my videos. Of course, my videos hasn't gotten as much views as that video, which is fine, but like that video sucked. Like, who did anyone really sit through 3 hours of that video where they were like, Nick is taking things out of context, and here's all the minute little detail and like, it was boring. So why is Nick reacting to it? He shouldn't have acknowledged it. I missed my favorite socialist channel stream. What's your favorite socialist channel stream? Let us know, because we watch a lot of socialists. So I'm sorry I yelled at you. Well, I'm not really sorry I yelled at you earlier. I'm never sorry I yell at people. But if you let us know your favorite socialist stream, I would like to know who you're watching. Beth, thank you for the super chat. You should do an extreme right bingo card. I should do that, Beth. You're right about that. I'm going to work on that. I promise. We should do debate bingo for tomorrow night. I should make up a whole bingo. I'm going to make up a whole debate bingo card. It'll be great. Let's see. I cannot believe how boring that was. Jesus Christ. Yeah, Beth, if you want to, Beth, let me know what words you think I should put on the debate bingo card. Tomorrow, we're doing an entire debate reaction marathon. I'm going to start in the evening, maybe around 5, 6 o'clock. And we're going to watch some MSNBC debate prep. We're going to watch some CNN debate prep. We're going to watch all the commentary, and then we're going to watch the debate. And hopefully Joshua will join us on the stream for the debate. I'm not promising anything, but I did guilt trip him. And just so you guys know, we're not doing nothing remotely controversial tonight because Joshua's on a plane right now. Sadly, his flight got delayed. And so he's not going to be able to do this show, but I'm using that against him to guilt him into coming on the channel tomorrow night for debate reaction stream. And so hopefully we're going to go all night, guys. It's going to be great.
Because it's just a fact that if you look at all of the elite institutions in the country, and I'm not talking about government, I'm talking about government and Hollywood and the media and finance and banking and Wall Street and academia. I'm talking about all the organs of the elite structure in America. They're all disproportionately Jewish. And I said that we, as Catholics, need to have a problem with that. We have a big problem with this.
Why?
Because what is Judaism other than the rejection of Jesus Christ? People say, well, Jesus was a Jew, or
this is going to sound anti-Semitic, Nick.
And,
well, that's a little anti-Semitic.
That testament was fulfilled. Their Messiah came. His name was Jesus, and fortunately, he arrived for all of us. And so the only thing that distinguishes a Jew from a Christian now is that we embrace Jesus, they reject Jesus. So it's people running the society. They're defined by their rejection and often hatred of Jesus Christ, who is God. Like, to me, this stuff
well,
just
for being technical about it, Jesus is the Son of God.
It is a fact that the elite institutions are disproportionately Jewish, influenced by organized Jewry. What is a Jew but someone that rejects Jesus?
Organized Jewry? Did he just say organized Jewry? What the fuck, Nick? Holy shit. Can we just listen to that again? I don't know why that's striking me as like absurdly funny, but it is. Yes. Organized Jewry. Holy shit, Nick. It's a little anti-Semitic, Nick. A little bit. Yep. Yes. Jewry. Oh my God.
Follows from the other. It is a fact that the elite institutions are disproportionately Jewish, influenced by organized Jewry. What is a Jew but someone that rejects Jesus? As a consequence, we as Catholics who believe Jesus is God cannot accept the status quo. We want a government of Christians. We want lawmakers. And
thank you for admitting that you're an authoritarian who wants to rule with an authoritarian Christian. See, this is what I was hoping for. Nick Fuentes showing his true colors. Like, we just want a government by our people, for our people, and fuck the rest of you.
Judges that are Christian. We want leaders, and we want storytellers, and we want teachers to be Christian because we want a Christian society. Now, I've just said all that. I don't think there's one thing in that that's hateful. I don't think there's one thing within
You're not even really a Christian, Nick.
That's derogatory, hateful, controversial. And even if you're not a Christian, you could say it's internally consistent. It's logically consistent for a Christian to believe this. And anyway, that's really what my show has been about for years. And that's what I talked about at the rally.
Exactly.
But lately, all these people take a look at this
Danielle.
show and they want to rip me to pieces over all kinds of things, which I'll get into.
I don't want a Christian nation either, Lone.
While I was away, these 3 Christian apologists did a reaction stream to my rally. And these are all Christians. This guy, his name is Inspiring Philosophy. That's the YouTube channel. And then these other 2 guys who I don't know. And they're watching the rally and they're going through quote after quote, because in the speech, I quote the Talmud, which is the Jewish holy book. And in the Talmud, it says they hate Christians. It says they want to kill Christians. And Christian women are unclean and all these terrible things. And the point is like, these are the people that are making all the decisions. They hate us and they hate God. And you have these Christians that are going through line by line and they say, actually, well, the Talmud says that, but what they meant was, actually, maybe the Talmud says this, but in context. And all throughout, they're hitting me, calling me a white supremacist, a Nazi, disgusting human being, Antichrist, but this, that. And thankfully, this is like faith in humanity restored. I look at all the comments, and all the comments are positive. There are like 5,000 comments, all of them positive towards me. And they all talked about the fact that you've got these guys who are Christians, and they're sticking up for the Talmud. Which, now granted, maybe a scholar of Judaism could come in and say, well, you don't have the correct interpretation or something like that. But the Talmud, by definition, is heresy. Like, by definition, is blasphemy and heresy for Christians. And this gets into, this is one of the things that always happens to a guy like me, is I'll say something perfectly reasonable. And this is one of the things that the people in the comments picked up on. And people that should agree with me are going to go out there and do this nitpicking. They're going to take a book like the Talmud, which says that Jesus is burning in hell, and they'll take the things that I've said about it and say, well, technically, well, that's debatable. Well, but if...
Why do you care what the Talmud says if you believe it's wrong? Like, this is the thing, guys. Like, this is the mistake that conservatives always make. Why do you care what it says if you believe it's wrong? Instead of focusing on all of the things that you don't like, focus on what you do like and what you want. Stop focusing on, this is wrong because I disagree with it. Focus on, here's the vision I have for society, and here's why I think it's better. I mean, like, if you really think that the book is wrong, then why does it make any difference at all?
If you interpret it, and they do this kind of nitpicking. And if you're me, I look at this Jewish holy book and I say, this is outrageous. These people are not Christian. There's no such thing as Judeo-Christian. They hate us. And as a consequence, them and their descendants probably shouldn't be making all the decisions over a Christian society. Again, a reasonable thing, but they'll come in and say, well, but what this part or that part or this thing, and they can't see the big picture. And then the other aspect of it is, here I am as a Catholic, again, making a perfectly reasonable argument, and they're going to be totally uncharitable, totally disingenuous. Everything that I say has got to be taken out of context and used in the worst possible way. Or they're going to go back to something I said 5 years ago or 3 years ago. Well, he said this. And anyway, so I put out a big post about this on Telegram, talking about how, and I'll preface it by saying this, I think that the reason that this kind of thing is happening is because we're winning. Like, the consciousness is being raised. People are becoming aware of these issues.
Well, Nick is right about that. Nick is actually right.
TikTok, and if you hit the algorithm right,
Nick is actually right about that. There would have been no reason for those 3 Christians to do a reaction video to Nick's speech if they weren't in some way afraid of Nick. I mean, I flat out to say this. I think, like, one of the reasons I watch Nick Fuentes is because I am afraid of what he's going to become. Truly. Because I do think he's exceptionally smart. I think that all of the deplatforming have actually contributed to him building this little underground movement. And because he's been deplatformed by everything, they're congregating in the furthest corners of the internet where people are not really paying attention. And it's this little, like, it is a cult. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, Nick has a little cult going on. He's got 50,000 followers on Telegram. He has his own goddamn streaming website. He has been forced by necessity into having to build all of his platforming by himself because he's been deplatformed by everything. And that means that he's going to be uncancelable. He can say whatever the fuck he wants. And every single time he gets deplatformed by something, it only makes him stronger. So I pay attention to Nick, and we watch Nick because I think that he's angry, and who wouldn't be in his position if we're honest about it? He's been deplatformed by everything by the age of 25. Like, so I think he's angry. I think he's exceptionally smart. And I think he has an army of people that the Groypers love Nick. They love him. And they will fight for him, and they will have his back, and they will go after anyone that disagrees with him, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I pay attention to him because I actually am afraid of what he's going to become. Channels like that one we just watched with those 3 Christians allegedly who are not leftists, but again, really sounded a lot like leftists to me if I compare their language, because I only listen to the language people use. I don't really care. Like, if you say you're a Christian, but then you're using the language of leftists, I'm like, all right. Why would they do a reaction to him if they weren't afraid of him? Why would they give him the time of day at all? It makes no sense. So I agree with Nick on that point.
You'll see a lot anyway. So I put out a big post about this on Telegram, talking about how, and I'll preface it by saying this, I think that the reason that this kind of thing is happening is because we're winning. Like, the consciousness is being raised. People are becoming aware of these issues. It's becoming like unignorable. If you go on TikTok and if you hit the algorithm right, you'll see a lot of posts with millions of views, hundreds of thousands of likes talking about these topics. And I'm getting on these huge platforms. I'm on Fresh and Fit, getting millions of views. And I go on this other debate, hundreds of thousands of views. Everybody views it positively. I'm trending on Twitter every day. And so I think it's a sign that this idea is getting into the mainstream, that everybody feels the need reflexively to come in and debunk it or give their response to it, because for a long time they just ignored it. It was inconvenient, so they just didn't talk about it. I'm not the first person to say these things, but I'm the first person, I think, to take them and force people to take a side on them, force them to confront them and think about them. And so I'll preface it by saying this, but lately so many people have it out for me. That guy, that Jewish guy on that show, these guys, this Jewish fighter that beat up some fat kid claiming to represent me. And it's interesting that not a single one of them can actually give a counter argument. I've just been blown away. And not to be like the debate bro guy, but you know, and I know, you watch this show, that what I say on this show is perfectly reasonable. Like, I'm a normal person. It's the world that went crazy. I'm going
to say this. I'm going to throw Nick a bone, because there are some nights when I'm sitting here working by myself, when I'm trying to write something for my Substack, when I turn on Nick Fuentes' show, when he's doing it live, just to see what's going on. There hasn't been any clip or anything. I'm just like, what's Nick talking about tonight? And I'm going to say this. Sometimes, and actually more often than not, what Nick is talking about on his shows and the reaction of his groypers are actually really wholesome. And there's actually nothing controversial about it. And there have been times when I've been watching his show and just like, it is honestly like, there have been so many times when it's like, there's no anti-Semitic bullshit. There's no racist bullshit. It's just like wholesome, kind of like weird incel bonding that's actually interesting to watch play out. And I don't know, man. I understand the appeal of being a groyper. I really do. I'm not going to say, no, Daft, I am not a secret groyper. I know. No. Just because we've struck some kind of like uneasy truce between us doesn't mean I consider myself to be a groyper. And I'm not a Christian. That's not going to happen. But wholesome sometimes about the community that he's created that I actually think is kind of endearing, and I understand why people are endeared to him over it. And Daft, if you guys could just cut the anti-Semitic and the racist bullshit, like, I just think it would be a lot nicer if you cut the anti-Semitic and the racist bullshit, okay? I understand.
Single thing that I say on this show that is deemed controversial would have been uncontroversial 100 years ago or less. Every single thing. Even the stuff where people say, oh, you attack the age of consent. That as a concept doesn't appear until the 70s. And even my people, the latest thing is they say, oh, you've got these controversial views about teenagers getting married. Again, this is how it worked everywhere for thousands of years, everywhere all the time until a half century ago here. And so the point is everything, whether it's the Jewish thing or race, even my views about women or traditional
also cut the misogyny,
sexuality.
Nick. Also cut the misogyny and the homophobia. That'd be pretty great.
Borderline consensus viewpoints 1 or 2 generations ago. And that's what I say on the show. And because I say those things, I'm now like the most hated person ever. I get like attacked nonstop and all these things. But the funny thing is, nobody can actually engage with that old world viewpoint. They can nitpick, they can be uncharitable, disingenuous, they can concern troll and say, oh, but you're irresponsible with your language. Oh, well, even if what you're saying isn't bad, it could lead to bad things. And it's like, this is your menu of denial. This is like your menu of denying reality. You could be a guy like these 3 Christians on Inspiring Philosophy, and you can nitpick. And you could pretend that the Talmud isn't a blasphemous, heretical holy book because, well, if you look at the context of 1 or 2 things.
Well, hang on. We have a groiper that's being nice in the chat right now, and I actually do appreciate it when groipers come into my chat and are nice and not dicks. So I'm going to throw a bone to Daft here. Daft says it's a love speech. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, Daft. We get attacked and we respond harsher, which makes it seem like they're the aggressor, which we are not. Fake new. We are the good guys. And then Daft says, our Bible accepts so-called homophobia, misogyny. We believe in order. Well, there's where you lose people, though, Daft, because I like my right to vote. And I don't care what people do in their bedroom. And I really just think that you guys would be better served if you focused more on yourselves than you did on who other people are fucking. I know I'm not asking, I don't think I'm asking too much. Like, what other people are doing in the privacy of their own bedroom is really none of your effing business. And if you guys here, like, listen, groipers, I'm gonna make a deal with you, okay? Let's come to some sort of consensus. If you guys stop focusing on what other people are doing in the privacy of their own bedroom, then I will promise, cross my heart and hope to die, that I will stop saying that Nick Fuentes is obviously gay and is one of the most obviously repressed gay men that I've ever seen in my life. Nick Fuentes wants a dick in the ass more than anyone I have ever seen in my life. I will stop saying that entirely if you guys stop worrying about what other people are doing in their own bedroom. Okay? Philosophus, thank you for the super chat. Manifested radical collectivism always seems to be externalized fear and insecurity. Ain't it the truth? Ain't it the truth?
Things so you can nitpick. Or if you're a guy like Michael Sartain, you could go in and say, well, but 5 years ago you said a joke and take things out of context. And I'll say, well, that was a joke. And then you could shift the goalposts and say, well, but it's irresponsible to make certain jokes. You're responsible for how people perceive it, even if they misconstrue what you said. Or you could go all the way to a guy like Destiny and say, okay, well, maybe Nick is only saying this, but it could lead, or it might inevitably lead to people being violent. Even if saying race differences are real, or there is a disproportionate Jewish influence, even if saying that isn't dangerous by itself, well, people will take the logical conclusion to violence. It could lead to bad things. And it just makes me feel like it's like gaslighting. I'm out here saying what I think is pretty obvious, and the logical conclusion of any conservative disposition, any conservative mentality would lead you to where I am. And I just get all these garbage. It's just like garbage, mosquito bite, ankle biting type things for saying it. I'm a guy that says the view that...
Hang on. Daft says, you're allowed to be gays, serial killers, or anything that's fallen. The question is, should we act on the sin? We believe there are temptations. We also believe in restriction and sacrifice. Why is it your job to control other people? Why is it your job to interfere in someone else's life? It's your job to focus on your own life. And if you want to live a life of restriction and sacrifice based on your religious beliefs, I don't think there's a single person here that cares. Live a life of restriction and sacrifice based on your religious beliefs, bro. Do what's best for you. I hope it makes you happy. I really, really genuinely mean that. But the problem is when you try to force your religious beliefs on everyone else. That's where the line gets drawn. If you want to create, I would have absolutely no problem if groypers, like who said it earlier? I think hang on. ChatGP said this. I don't mind people being socialists, just don't make me be one. Go find your people and share your stuff. I have said a million times that if socialists want to take over the state of Vermont, which is basically already a communist state anyway, like if all the socialists and the communists want to congregate in Vermont and create their little socialist communist utopia in the state of Vermont, and no one has to stay there and no one is forced to be a part of it, then more power to them. If they want to live in a little communist utopia, then so be it. I just don't want them to force me to live in a communist utopia, and I'll stay over here in New Hampshire where things are still relatively sane and relatively free. And I would say the same thing of the groypers. If you guys want to go take over a state, like maybe go take over a state like the state of Wyoming. I think the state of Wyoming would be an excellent location for the groypers. There's not a lot of population there. You guys could take over that state, or maybe the state you could try taking over Florida. That's going to be a little bit more difficult, or maybe you even just try to take over like a county. Like you guys all move to the same county and you want to have your own little county where it's like the Groyper County, and anyone who wants to live by these little Groyper rules that you want to create your own Christian theocracy like in America where you've taken over a county and you don't force anyone to be there and people can leave. I don't care. Honestly, go take over Wyoming, go take over Idaho, go take over Montana, go take over a state or county or city or whatever you guys want to do, and have your Christian, like, you know, your Christian realm where you guys can enforce the rules of the Bible or whatever, and everyone who wants to be there wants to be a part of that. It makes no difference to me at all, because I want you guys to be happy and I want you guys to live whatever life you want. But it's the problem is when you start forcing your ideas onto other people who don't want them. We can all peacefully coexist. We can all have our own tribes, as long as we acknowledge that what's right for me is not going to be right for you, and what's right for you is not going to be right for me. And guess what? It doesn't have to be. We're being cordial right now. Like, we don't have to be enemies. We can trade. We can share resources where it makes sense. If there are things we can align on, like defeating the woke communist Marxist bullshit, I will even work with groypers on that. If you guys want to be productive in defeating woke Marxist cultural bullshit, then fine. I just don't want to live in a Christian nation, because I am not a Christian, but I want you to have whatever you want to have. And I don't know what's so hard about understanding this. Let me see. I feel like I'm being perfectly reasonable here. I don't really know what the problem is. Just scrolling through the chat, guys. Hang on.
That everybody had 100 years ago, and people treat me like I'm the devil. People treat me like I'm Hitler. It's like the devil's the devil, not me, not Hitler. And the country's being raped to death, and people want to attack me. People sound the alarm. Nick Fuentes did a podcast appearance, and he talked to too many people. It's like, dude, the whole country's being raped to death by immigrants and Israel. They flew planes into our buildings. They killed our president. They blew up our ship. And now we're turning into Africa, but people want to sound.
What are you talking, Nick? That's so fucking racist.
What everyone believed.
Jesus Christ.
So anyway, that's what I was saying on Telegram this past week in response to that video. It's just totally weird, very weird dynamic. And it's not even just that. It's like everything that I'm subjected to. I look at my life, which in many ways is very difficult.
See, and here is where the groypers go off the rails. This is where you guys lose. If it was just about living a peaceful Christian life of restriction and sacrifice and blah, 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 then what I just proposed would not be a problem. But the response is, sorry, Carlin, we are done compromising with evil, which of course they consider anyone who isn't an authoritarian Christian to be evil. Look around you. The world is collapsing without God. Human trafficking and child sacrifice is growing. It's done by our own leader. Christ is the answer. Well, bro, I don't think Christ is the answer. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm cool with Jesus. Jesus is actually a descended master in my spiritual belief system. It's not as though he's nothing. I'm cool with him, man. But like, your religion is your religion. Like, doesn't make it mine. It doesn't make it other people's. And if you guys can't accept that you cannot control other people, then there's no compromise to be had. Like, this is not hard. Just create your own little society. It can be, I think Reagan said earlier, consider yourselves to be like the Amish. The Amish have their own society. They live by their own rules. The Amish don't even pay taxes. Like, go create your little Amish-like society and live by your own Christian rules. And guess what? We'll get to see whether or not your society works better than other societies. But you trying to control other people is where you guys cross the line.
My advocacy, and it's like all this, like no banks, no processors, no platforms, ostracized, blacklisted, harassment, all these kinds of attacks, because I disagree, because I object. But anyway, just some thoughts on the latest chorus from these people. And they're all ugly. And they're all ugly too. Those inspiring philosophy guys, they all look like idiots. I mean, just their faces. I mean, if you're going to attack me...
That's not very Christ-like, Nick.
Be a good representative of your own
I don't disagree with him, but it's not very Christ-like,
anyway.
Nick. That's it? God. I have to say, I am deeply disappointed in some people right now. I'm deeply disappointed in the Inspiring Philosophy channel that just did the most boring Nick Fuentes reaction video that I've ever seen in my life. And I am so sorry that I made you guys sit through some of it. I almost fell asleep. It was worse than any socialism video that we have ever watched. I am deeply, and I know that like we pride ourselves on sitting through anything. I couldn't sit through that. And I'm very disappointed in Nick as well, because Nick could have had, like, why is Nick even reacting to this? Why is he even reacting to this? No, they don't, bro. Most of them, no, they don't. That's just not true. Like, why is Nick even reacting to this video? Like, what I'm about to say is going to get taken out of context, and I understand that. That video that we watched was beneath Nick by like 3,000 miles. Why is he even giving those people the time of day? They didn't say anything interesting. They didn't make any salient arguments. Like, yes, Trendlin, it was worse than the Whatever podcast. It was. Because at least the Whatever podcast was like a little bit spicy and saucy, and there was at least something going on. I mean, it was stupid, but at least there was something going on. There was just nothing going on in that video at all, and it was boring. Well, but like if you just want to be okay, so our Groiper friend, and I am glad you're here, says we want to be left alone, but they will never leave us alone. Time to be on defense. Remember, I said we respond harsher. Okay, bro, if you just want to be left alone, you're not going to be left alone if you say that your desire is to control other people. I am fine with you guys being left alone to have your little Christian nationalist society. I don't really care. But like when you guys say that you're going to go after anyone who even questions you, that's not leaving people alone. And if you don't leave other people alone, then they're not going to leave you alone. Like Nick should have never even responded to those people. Like there's no purpose to it. Like, who really sat through that 3-hour video anyway? It might have gotten a whole bunch of views, but like, who really sat through the whole thing? Because that was boring as shit. All right. Guys, that is all I have for today. I appreciate the people hanging out. Now, we've got a couple of things coming up. As a reminder, we are sadly not doing nothing remotely controversial tonight because Joshua is on a plane. And his flight got delayed. He was supposed to be home yesterday. He's not going to be home tonight in time for the show. And so we're not doing nothing remotely controversial tonight. I'm not Gen X. I'm actually a millennial, believe it or not. I'm a very early millennial. But again, if you are trying to control other people, be prepared for other people to try to control you, bro. This is just basic. Come on. All right. So sadly, we're not going to be able to do nothing remotely controversial tonight because Joshua's flight got delayed. I'm very sorry for everyone who missed it, but I do have a couple of things coming up over the next couple of days you guys are going to be so happy about. Number one, tomorrow. Now, I have this tentatively scheduled to start at 5 o'clock, but we might start a little bit later because I don't know if I can actually do that much politics in one single night. So we are doing a mega debate reaction stream tomorrow. We're going to do some pre-gaming. We're going to watch some MSNBC. We're going to watch some CNN. We're going to see what people are saying about the debate, getting ready for the clown show, and then we will watch and react to the debate live. When does it start? 9 or 9:30? I think it starts at 9, I'm pretty sure. We will watch the debate live at 9 o'clock, and hopefully Joshua will join us because he needs to make it up to us that his flight got delayed and we can't do the show tonight. So I'm very, very hopeful that Joshua will be able to pop onto the stream and join us for at least a little bit of it. And we're gonna react to the debate. It's gonna be awesome. MSNBC is gonna do a whole clown show. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be the best entertainment in the world. Guys, go stock up. Get some beer. Get some snacks. It's going to be an epic night. I'm thinking we're going to start around 5 or 6 o'clock, probably closer to 6, because again, it's just going to be a really long night. And so I might start a little bit later. I have it tentatively scheduled for 5 right now. We will decide tomorrow when we're going to start. And then, are you guys ready for it? Are you guys ready? By popular demand, the QAnon shaman, Jacob Chansley, is going to be joining us live on Thursday. Who is excited to talk to the QAnon shaman? I am so excited to talk to the QAnon shaman. I cannot wait. I am like legitimately starstruck. I am so excited about it. And so he will be joining us live at 5 p.m. on Thursday. I cannot wait. If you guys have questions you want me to ask him, let me know. It's gonna be the best. And you know, I don't have guests often on the channel, but when I do, they're the best guests, and I'm really, really excited about it. All right, guys, that is all I have for today. But I am fangirling. I am fangirling, Trendlin. I am. I didn't expect to like the QAnon shaman as much as I do like the QAnon shaman. And I probably shouldn't even be calling him that because he doesn't want to be called that, but like that's just like what he's known as. So it is what it is, I guess. Autumn, I don't want any funny business on Thursday, Autumn. You are not going to ruin the QAnon shaman for us, Autumn, okay? We've been looking forward to this. No funny business on Thursday. No, I don't have a headdress. I don't. That's all right. All right, guys, that is all I've got for tonight. Yeah, that's all I got. Hang on. Writers group in the supporter Discord. Thank you, Sin. Writers group will be delayed until after the QAnon shaman because I know everyone is very excited and it's going to be great. All right, guys, take care. Have a great rest of your night.